everything we have. They told us we would never last. Oh, we go showing what we got, run the show, we call the shots. It's about to go down. Oh, break it all, we'll make a scene. And paint the walls with kerosene. Oh, and candles for the ones we lost. Light them up, they paid the cost. It's going down. I hear the sounds like an ocean of roars. The restless crowd keeps on screaming for war. Rise up, show them that we're winning. Rise up, show them how we do it. Rise up, get it, make them feel it. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, show them that we're winning. Rise up, show them how we do it. Rise up, get it, make them feel it. Rise up, scream and make them hear it. Crawling now, we made the climb. Falling so we learn to fly. Oh, the weight is up, the time is now. We take revenge, we made a vow. It's about to go down. Heroes fight to make a change. Sacrifice to break the chains. Blood and tears and battle cries. Warriors will never die. It's going down. I hear the sounds like an ocean of roars. The restless crowd keeps on screaming for war. Rise up, show them that we're winning. Rise up, show them how we do it. Rise up, get it, make them feel it. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, show them that we're winning. Rise up, show them how we do it. Rise up, get it, make them feel it. Rise up, scream and make them hear it. I hear the sound like an ocean of roars. The restless crowds keep on screaming for war. Won't stop the riot till we're dead on the floor. Burning like wildfires, you can't stop it. Rise up, show them that we're winning. Rise up, show them how we do it. Rise up, get it, make them feel it. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, show them that we're winning. Rise up, show them how we do it. Rise up, get it, make them feel it. Rise up, scream and make them hear it.
Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Dire Wolf here for another wonderful Dire Wolf weekly news recap behind enemy lines on YouTube, where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized. That's also super unidentified secret Dire Wolf. Don't tell anyone. And alongside me is my unidentified secret co-host, Fox Trevise. How are you?
Now, you might think that I have been identified by the name card underneath my avatar, but that would imply that you're using logic to identify me, so you can't do that. It's against the rules.
We can't assume people know how to read, right?
That is actually, that's real.
So you must be actually, to be properly identified, constantly yelling out what your name is and who you work for. Otherwise, you're unidentified.
Even then.
So tonight's sponsors are, of course, you guys who donate to this channel and make it happen. This is your fault. You have to live with it. That includes Kaylet, Ori Main, Nathan Cameron, Tetris Freak, Sliphoke, Thundra Erican, who is female, by the way, and the White Lion. Oh, and also that guy named Timberwolf. He donates a lot and also boosts us on the Discord server. Much appreciated, all of you. You're guilty for what we're doing here. If you want to also support us and can't do so financially, we still appreciate it. You can like, share, subscribe, throw bits at us occasionally, or whatever.
I forgot about bits.
Bits exist.
Little bits.
Little bits. It reminds me of that one interdimensional cable episode. Anyways, so I got told by your boyfriend about Candace Owens and her book, and so she recently put out a book called Blackout. Yes, and the book is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about black people leaving the Democrat Party because
it's like the black sits and the walk away movement for like black people, especially how Joe Biden said that if you're not voting for Democrats then you're not black, and Joe Biden just kind of said the quiet part out loud like recently, but like that has been the mentality of the Democrat Party really since welfare started. Like that was the goal. Welfare started off with the idea that this is a good way to keep the blacks voting for Democrats for generations to come. And I mean, I suppose
that a black kid could do is just as good in school as a wealthy kid.
also, even more recently, so Joe Biden had a town hall, which we'll get back to Candace in a second. But right now, I guess this turned into a Joe Biden is racist segment. So Joe Biden had a town hall on Thursday, I think, and that was to, I guess, following up Trump's town hall, which I think was on Tuesday. But in the town hall, Joe Biden, for absolutely no reason at all, stated out simply that his goals for criminal justice reform was to make sure that black people smoking crack didn't get any more time than white people smoking powdered cocaine. And like no one asked, hey Joe, like, can you just like tell everyone like if you think like crack cocaine's a specifically black drug? And Joe Biden was just like, no, like you don't have to ask. Like I'll just volunteer that I think that crack is an exclusively black problem. Now, it may have been decades ago more prevalent in the black community, but like crack cocaine has it's desegregated itself. It is achieved racial equity, so to speak. So it was very interesting that Joe Biden volunteered that information so directly, but that's kind of what they think. They think that black people smoke crack and they think that black people vote Democrat. That's just like, that's where Biden's at. But Candace Owens, her book was, she's been one of the few conservative black champions of, hey, let's wake up, black people. Like it's not, the Democrats are just using you and they also kind of hate you. Stop voting for them.
Yeah, and I always thought it was a sick joke that the party of segregation, the party of Jim Crow, and the party of slavery was supposedly the party that blacks should vote for, otherwise they're not black.
It's almost like we have generations and generations of people who were not taught proper American history.
Yeah, I mean, this is the party of the KKK. The KKK was the militant arm of the Democrat Party, the brown shirts, you might say, that were going around and killing black people. But no, that's the party of equality for black people. Yeah, right. The party that actually fought a war to end slavery, that's the ones they're calling racist.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Anyway, so the books were, her book is being sold on Amazon. It's called Blackout. You can look into it if it's something that you're interested in. But apparently, 1,000 people who had bought her book have sent her letters or messages of some sort saying that the book they received had been defaced, had Vaseline smeared on it or other things done to damage the book, and so they're believing that someone at Amazon may be intentionally damaging the books that are being ordered before being shipped out to her readers.
How dare they? That's awful.
Yeah, it's awful. It's pretty petty, and I'm sure they're probably gonna get fired for this. If they find out who it was. But before that to happen, enough people would have to put up a stink about it. And maybe the company losing money, because I know how Amazon works is, 'cause if you have books stocked at Amazon, Amazon actually would lose out money on the book being returned, right?
Yes.
So it'd be the company losing money if 1,000 books are returned. If it's from one employee costing them that much, I'm sure their job isn't worth that much.
You'd be surprised. We see some other stuff with this. There were some viral videos of Amazon employees, like coughing and other ways corrupting MAGA masks, like Trump, Make America Great masks that people were ordering. And there was videos of them like coughing on them or like rubbing them on the ground or like rubbing their shoes on them and stuff like that. And it doesn't really look great for Amazon. It's kind of kind of just it removes trust from the supply chain. There's kind of this assumption that when you receive a product that it's unadulterated. We saw this with the ice cream scandals last year, where it kind of decreased confidence in ice cream all around the country. And it's just not a good look for Amazon, and it's really petty, like you said. We're going to get into this in the next story. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg tonight. But we're not the ones, like conservatives and libertarians, we're not the ones that made everything political. The left did that. And
you never see a Republican or a conservative going out and like doing petty things like damaging Democrat products or stealing their flags, even, or their yard signs. You'll see that.
Yeah. So that kind of will feed into some of the discussion later on. Is like, well, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she died. Like, let's let her rest in peace. Like, don't make it political. No, like, we're not the ones that made it political. The left makes everything political, and right down to economics, where you will be barred from participating in the economy. You'll be barred from exchanging money back and forth with each other if the left deems your politics to be undesirable. So remember all of that when we were discussing Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death in a political context. We're not the ones that made everything political. We're just trying to keep up.
Right. So that brings us to our first story. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead.
Gasp. Gasp.
Gasp.
We only have seen this coming for like the last several years.
They claim that she died on 18 September at age 87 due to her fourth bout of pancreatic cancer. However, I still think it's a Weekend at Bernie's thing.
Yes. In that Bernie's body and Biden's body are both from the same place that they got the Ginsburg body, and possibly also the Hillary body, which is to say that they're all animatronic.
I think Disney. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, I'm not saying it's aliens, but I'm pretty sure she had strings.
Maybe it's QAnon. That's a popular buzzword. If you're not sure what's going on, but you want to smear conservatives, just say QAnon. QAnon bad. Do you know what QAnon is? It's bad. Oh, okay.
It's a conspiracy. About what? It's bad.
Wonderful job. Good job. You figured it all out there. And the show's over. So I found this out last night. I was quick on the draw. I just happened to be looking at my phone when a notification from the Daily Wire popped in saying our RBG has passed away, and I immediately called Dyer. And Dyer's response was kind of funny. He asked me, well, how do we feel about that? Are we happy or sad about that? My response was, honestly, I hadn't even made it to that point. That was like way down on my list of things that I was thinking about in the first like 20 seconds of hearing this news. Everything I was thinking about was political. And again, it's not my fault. The left has made everything political. We've talked about this a lot of times before. Dyer and I are small government small government advocates. We would prefer that the government is so small that it doesn't matter who's in office because it's too small to do anything. Even if they wanted to harass us, the government would be too small to actually go after anything. But because the left and the establishment right, the Republicans, to a certain extent, have made it their mission in life for the last 100 years to grow the government to this Leviathan size. They've made it so big. It's so...
All you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth.
How dare you? Slowpoke gave us $2. He says, "Hey Dyer, what's your stance on electing a court judge on an election year, even if it favors the Dems? Asking for a friend, grabs your lower fur and squeezes honk honk."
I wrote that opinion into the script, but you want me to give it to you right now?
Let me finish my diatribe here. So,
Okay.
because the government's so big, and because the left has been determined that all cultural issues, into your sports and your movies, and you're now into schooling and into your job where you've got to take these white supremacy classes where you have to admit that whites are better than blacks and you have to be guilty about it. You got all these things that the left has pushed into your personal life, and now they're also getting into the economics too, where you're unable to participate in the economy. They will shut down your accounts. They will not process your transactions for political reasons. The left has made the government so big and intrusive and so dangerous to have the other side controlling it that I don't care that she died one way or the other. I don't really have thoughts on that one way or the other. I care that seat is open and we now have an opportunity to put someone in that position that will not use this Leviathan government to try to come after me and try to put me in jail or criminalize me for existing. That is what I'm excited about, and that's the only thing I can think about. That is not my fault. The left has made that into that. The left has made it into this. The left has made it so that it's the political concern has come first because they're playing the game super hard for whatever reason. And so I'm not going to be guilted that I'm not spending my first few minutes after hearing it lamenting the death of a human being. No, this is now an opportunity to make the government less dangerous, and by God, yes, I'm excited about that.
So this is the way I respond to my wife, because my wife asked me about the being happy or not thing, and I said being happy about her vacancy is not rejoicing over her death. It's not like
yes, exactly.
It's a huge difference.
Precisely correct.
We are happy that we won World War II. That doesn't mean we're happy that millions of people died, and that is that's just the reality. That's what happened.
Yes.
All right. The consequence of her dying is something that we're happy about, not that we wanted her to die.
Yes. Regardless of how it came to be, I am happy that there is an open seat, regardless of how it came to pass.
So I'm not sure that's a perfect analogy, but that's definitely what I told my wife.
No, for sure.
So. Yes, let's watch this little video.
Okay, yeah. So this video is Orange Man Pretty Good. This is the video of him first finding out that Ruth died last night. They kind of, I believe he was coming off of a campaign event. You'll hear some music in the background, and the music is kind of appropriate to the somber tone, but the music is not. It was not added in, and it wasn't being played just because they were asking him a somber question. Like, the music is from like the playing him off stage from his rally. So like that music in the background like isn't added in. Like, it was actually there in reality, which I guess is just kind of like a goofy coincidence. But we'll watch that now. Let's see.
Yeah. She just died? Wow. I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time. She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life. I'm actually sad to hear that. I am sad to hear that. Thank you very much.
I'm sad now. Thank you so much for making me sad. How dare you?
All right.
So that was a very stately response.
Yeah.
That was he was very visibly taken aback. He clearly had respect for her, which, you know, respect the office. We'll get into that more later, but I thought that was a pretty good representation for him. I think that was a good way to put it. I don't think that there's going to be any way for the media to spin that into anything awful, so they'll probably just make something up.
Oh, come on, you know they will.
Well, no. I think when Trump doesn't give them something, they just make stuff up. Like, so, you know, there'll still be something that happens, but
Right.
it won't be that. So one of the reasons why this is at such an interesting point in time, and actually, what was it, Dyer? Was it a week ago that I had proposed that this was going to happen? For the
It was recently.
It was very recently. So I'll get into that prediction. I probably should have made that on air because it was a good one. But okay, so the coming election in November is very, very likely going to come down to a ruling. It's going to come down to the legal system, right? So,
It's in the script.
What?
Just in the script.
I am reading the script, Dyer. I'm improving. Thank you. So it's going to come down to a legal battle, you know, in various courts. There's going to be a lot of lawsuits in the states, and if it is anything like the 2000 election, which it's likely going to be a lot worse than the 2000 election, it will end up in the Supreme Court ultimately. The Democrats and Republicans will likely make multiple legal challenges that result in many contested state-level elections in November, along with the contention for all of the Electoral College nominations. This situation was engineered by the Democrats by requiring unsecure and corruption-ridden mail-in voting that will result in so many errors and miscounts and recounts and unconfident counts that it will only ever be decided in lawsuits. Like, you're going to see a ridiculous amount of the Electoral College being selected because of a legal decision rather than by the actual vote totals, which is, regardless of which way it goes, like, even if Trump gets elected in November, the way that Trump gets elected in November is still going to be the ugliest thing the democracy has seen since the Revolutionary War.
Yep. So it's not only the having to wait for the votes to come in and the chaos of voting them, because the system of moving and counting those votes doesn't exist, but then it has to go through the lower courts and through up to the Supreme Court to actually resolve those contested elections. That can take a long time, even though the Supreme Court will be trying to expedite it as quick as possible. But if we don't have all 9 justices, it's very possible we could have a 4-4 split and no decision. Mm-hmm. So to preserve the democratic process, it's necessary we have all the justices be there, because you don't want to have to deal with a situation where there is no decision.
Yeah, so the prediction that I had made off air to Dyer a few weeks ago, I think it was like less than 2 weeks ago, where I said, like, okay, here's the nightmare scenario, is that we get to November, you know, the first 2 weeks are chaos in counting the votes. There's no good decision. It works its way up through the up to the Supreme Court, and then late November, early December, Ruthie bites the dust, and then we're left with a 4-4 split, and the country just gets. That's when the Civil War starts, basically. Like, yeah. That's the nightmare scenario. Now, that Dyer was like, oh my God, don't even say that. Like, that's like, don't even say that. I can't even think about that right now. And that was less than 2 weeks ago. And I guess I was just like a little bit early, because her dying now versus her dying in November, like, her dying in November would have been like maybe a little bit more dramatic, but it leads us to the exact same problem where we now know for sure my nightmare scenario is going to play out. We know that this election is going to be decided in the courts, and we know it's going to work its way up to the Supreme Court, and now we know there will be a 4-4 split unless one of the conservative-leaning justices decides to flip over. It's either going to go into a 4-4 split, or one of the conservatives will go over to the left, and it'll be a 5-3. Like, that's the only two
There's
options.
one other scenario, which we'll get into here shortly, though it's very, very likely.
Aliens. Aliens. Is it aliens? Do you know something we don't know,
It's
Dyer?
not aliens,
Fuck.
but it's just
Dyer's
as unlikely.
confirming that he does know about the aliens, and he knows that they are not going to be interfering in the election.
I'm going to need you to refer to public affairs for any further questions.
Yes.
The Democrats have telegraphed that they intend to not concede under any circumstances. Hillary said Biden should not concede under any circumstances. Nancy said, one way or another, Trump is leaving office.
What do you mean by that, Nancy? Tell us more. Tell us more, Nancy.
It sounds like you are threatening us, Nancy. When they when the Democrats got together and war-gamed all the scenarios.
What was the return address on that ricin package to Trump? Was it Nancy's address?
Might have been Nancy.
It was her second ice cream fridge because it was so big it needed its own address. That was the return address. It was Nancy's ice cream fridge.
So, point being is, all the scenarios that the wargaming gave was the only possible one was that Trump would barely win by the electoral college.
Yes,
but more likely than not, all their scenarios are about Biden winning and Trump just not conceding because they can't think of a scenario where Biden actually really loses.
From the Democrats' point of view is, sometimes they win, sometimes we lose. Like, that's the only way that they see it, though. Like, there's never a situation in which, like, the right, like, legitimately wins an election. Either the left wins an election or the right somehow cheated. Like, that's the only worldview that the left has, because they believe that they are on the right. They believe that they are representing the people, and they believe that we're just evil incarnate, and there's no possible way that we could possibly be getting legitimate elections.
Just look at the last 4 years. They never accepted that last election. They still think that was unjust.
And every other presidential election for like the last 60 years.
Yes, they will contest every last one of them. So we know that they have engineered the scenario where there will be a contested election and they will not concede.
Absolutely. So Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said on Friday, which was yesterday? Yes, it was, because today's Saturday. Saturday News Recap. So Mitch McConnell said on Friday that he intends to hold confirmation hearings and vote on a Trump nominee ASAP prior to the election. So my point of view, so there was a lot of things that went through my mind like the first few minutes after hearing this, and none of them had to do with like Ruth the person. I think I've already gone through that to death. But one of the things I thought was tomorrow morning, so like, which would have been this morning, Trump should have immediately said, here is my 5 candidates, and preferably make them all black women. And then just be like, these are my candidates for Supreme Court that I'm nominating. And just ruthless. Be ruthless.
Ruthless, huh?
The Supreme Court's ruthless.
Do you know that Trump released an updated list of Supreme Court justice picks just like 4 days ago?
Power move.
When Ruth died, and my first thought was, wait, Trump just released a list. Did he know something we didn't know?
I think he knew what we all knew, which was like the same thing that we've known about her for the last 2 years.
So basically, you're saying that Trump can predict the future by 3 days.
Yes. I think Joe Rogan's got some sort of thing where like if they talk about people they die. I think he's got like one of those curses. I don't know. We'll see. But so I guess that's good that McConnell has shown a willingness to push through any nominations, as they should. I'll get into this at later. I don't know. Is there a place where we can talk about like the difference between Obama doing like a last minute appointment? Okay, I'll save that for that part. So Ted Cruz also weighed in. Senator Ted Cruz said in an interview that Trump should submit a nominee immediately, and that the GOP-controlled Senate should confirm them immediately. Trump's admin has expressed that they will be nominating someone very soon, i.e. they should have done that literally today. They literally should have done that today. The Democrats didn't even wait for John Lewis just died. So Congressman John Lewis, he's been in Congress for he's been in Congress since civil rights, quite a long time ago. But the Democrats used his funeral to grandstand about Trump's foreign policy.
His body wasn't even cold yet.
No, it wasn't even in the grave. John Lewis was literally dead, but in the room, not even in the grave. And Obama is using the eulogy to address Trump by name and complain about Trump's foreign policy.
Hell,
I said,
still having a heart attack, not even dead yet.
Yeah.
When Obama started the speech.
So when I said we are not the ones that made everything political, that was the Democrats. That's what I mean. So this is not an issue. I don't think that it would have been inappropriate as per the Democrat standard. Now the Democrats are hypocrites up to the sky, so it doesn't really matter.
Democrat and standard in the same sentence, man.
Yeah, I know. But from what they have shown us is their standard, there would have been nothing wrong with Trump less than 12 hours later saying, "Here's my nominations for Supreme Court." He absolutely should have done that. Absolutely.
Yes. And they would have criticized him for it. I wouldn't care.
He should by Monday afternoon, he should be making a nomination. If he has not nominated somebody by next Friday, that is a massive failure.
Yes, absolutely. So when Trump, when notified of RBG's death, praised her as a brilliant mind, though RGB has been on the right side of some arguments, such as cases regarding equal protection under the law for women and homosexuals.
Boo.
She notably, you. So
I don't deserve rights.
So she was on the right side of those arguments, but not because she was following the Constitution or a system of laws. It was just her, interpreting them the way she wants. And that's kind of the problem, because in the areas where she was wrong in the past is where she was against Second Amendment, believing the Second Amendment doesn't apply to individual people and that we don't have right to own guns at all. And she was openly against state rights. In a case as recent as 2013, she voted saying that states like Texas, some states, not all states, just some states should have their laws approved by the federal government regarding the voting system before they can pass them, saying that there's one system of laws for some states and another system of laws for other states, and that these states don't have a right to pass their own laws. They have to be validated prior to by the federal government. That is completely flies in the face of the Constitution and states' rights, and that's why it was overturned.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that case was that was it Texas? Right?
Texas was one of the states.
Okay, so I believe the case though was that the states in question wanted to add voter identification requirements, and so she struck that down. She said that voter identification, having secured ballots, was against the interest of the federal government. There's nowhere in the Constitution that you could read that. It's unreadable. So as you were saying, when she happens to be on the right side versus the wrong side of certain arguments, it's not from a textualist perspective where you're reading the text of the Constitution. It's from this living, breathing document idea where they are doing judicial activism, and she's one of those justices that comes up with the idea. She decides ahead of time, I want this outcome, and then she spends her time reverse engineering the law as much as possible to get her back to that conclusion. Whereas a textualist would say, you know what, I don't know what the Constitution says on that, although they probably do. But like, why don't we go read what the Constitution actually has to say on that, and we'll decide from there based on analysis of the actual text that exists, and then we'll come to the correct answer, not just reverse engineering your desired result. And that's what Ruth did. All of Ruth's decisions were reverse engineering the Constitution to try and figure out how to get to her predefined conclusion, which is not how you're supposed to do law.
If you are a good Supreme Court justice, if something is unjust, like the law, as the law is, it has a bad outcome you disagree with, right? You still you have to follow the law, no matter how you feel about it. Like, but in your decision, you can highlight that this decision is happening because of a law being poorly written or the Constitution needing to be changed. If you think there's something wrong with the law that's creating a bad outcome, you can comment on it in your decision. But in the end, you have to go with what the law says and what the Constitution says.
Yeah, the Supreme Court was not meant to be a way to backdoor constitutional amendments. And It certainly was not a way to backdoor additional things that the federal government had a purview to do over the states. There's specific language in the Constitution that the federal government has certain responsibilities, and anything that's not enumerated in those responsibilities falls to the state. That's pretty clear that literally everything that's not written in the Constitution falls back to the states. And somehow Ruth reads into that, well, I think actually this additional thing doesn't count. So we're going to go ahead and say that the states are not allowed to secure their ballots. Which, who does unsecure ballots benefit? Well, it typically doesn't benefit the Republicans because we don't play games like that. But
so this situation, I don't know if you know this, draws some pretty strong parallels to the death of Justice Scalia.
He just found a pillow on his head. I don't know, man.
In February of 2016, Scalia died. At the time, many Republican senators, including many of those still in office today, were opposed to Obama replacing him in the last year of his presidency. While the Democrats were in favor of replacing, and they did. 1 month later, they had a new justice who replaced Justice Scalia, who was a conservative. They replaced him with someone who was a left-leaning. So the right and left were on the complete opposite sides of this argument that we're having right now. So they actually, the Republicans had invoked what was called the Biden rule, because Biden in 1992 had made the argument that you should not replace a vacancy in the Supreme Court in the last year or an election year of a presidency. That was what Biden said should be the rule. And the Republicans quoted Biden, who was the current vice president, to Obama when they were arguing why he should replace Scalia, thank you, in that last year. So now the two sides have completely swapped.
Yeah, so my opinion on that is that I don't really care about the standard. I was at the time in 2016.
There is no standard.
Yeah, exactly.
No
so
standard.
At 2016, I was like, you know what? I don't think that Obama being a lame duck, there is no possibility of him getting reelected. He was at his second term. I could see the arguments from like a principle level. Yeah, okay, a lame duck president shouldn't be appointing a Supreme Court justice that late, even though technically it's still within his term. Maybe it looks bad or it doesn't look bad. I don't care anymore. I think that based off what the Democrats are trying to do with the courts, again, this is because they've made the government so big It's the ring of power. It's a giant gun. Whoever gets that gun first, they're going to win. Whoever gets the ring of power first, they're going to win. So because the Democrats have, and the establishment Republicans to a large extent, have made this government so dangerous to the minority party that we have to fight tooth and nail over this. I say absolutely, if the Democrats are trying to get in a Supreme Court justice, I don't care what the reasoning is, any means necessary of obstructing that. And I don't think that we should be following that rule at all when it's on the Republican side. Put in as many justices as you can. I actually think that if the Democrats are threatening to overload the courts, we should do it first. That is how important this is. And it's not, the Democrats have so destroyed the field of politics that there's some principles. So there's a difference between like your basic conservative principles of like we should have a small government, but there's also, well, I have to live in the world that we actually have. Like the small government idea is like, I want that to exist, but it doesn't currently exist. So operating in the current system, well, I'm not going to let this government just keep growing and growing and growing. And if Trump doesn't fill in this vacancy and the Democrats are successful in stealing the presidency and then Biden gets to fill it, they are going to use that court against you. They will actually be taking your rights from you. There is a very good possibility that this will lead to a situation where you are being arrested. We're already seeing this. We got some stories about this later in the show, where you are being arrested for literally just existing. You are being arrested for having private property. You're being arrested for using your constitutionally guaranteed rights. This is the future that the Democrats are trying to push for. And it's not that we don't have time for principles, but I'm not going to get locked into like the minutia of like, is it or isn't it appropriate to be, nominating Supreme Court justices? Like, that's not a principled position that I'm going to be dying over. I'm going to be dying on the hill of, conservative small government stuff. And let's put in Supreme Court justices that agree with that and that aren't going to be just rubber stamping all of the insanity that the Democrats want to be passing through Congress. Does that make sense?
So I understand, and here's my thoughts on it. So I think that if we take and pack the courts, or if they pack the courts, now we have created a standard that anyone who gets in power is just going to add, because there is no number of justices in the Constitution.
It was originally 3.
The Supreme Court.
Yes, there is no limit or number set in the Constitution. It could be any number. So if you set the standard that, just to take control of the court, I'm going to add 15, well, the next person will be like, okay, I'm going to add 50, right? So this would create a precedent that would be very destructive moving forward if either party were to do that. And I think that if one party does it, again, it's already been done, by the way, that it will probably create an arms race that will just never ending. The only solution to that would be to pass a constitutional amendment saying that this is the solid number. It's 9 and nothing else, right? But my opinion on whether or not a president in his last year of his term should be able to put a justice in or not. My opinion when Obama was doing it was the same as my opinion is now. I value consistency. It is the president's job to nominate for vacancies. I didn't like that Obama had the opportunity to do it, but it was his job. I wasn't going to say he shouldn't, because I didn't want to say that a Republican later on, or any other president that I might agree with, shouldn't be able to do the same thing. I find it very hypocritical, though, that Chuck E. Schumer is saying that Americans should have their voice to select the next Supreme Court justice and fill that vacancy after they have their new president, because he's assuming that the election is going to not be Trump. He wants to wait till the end of the election. I think that's hypocritical, because Chuck E. Schumer just 4 years ago was applauding the fact that his president, his guy, had the opportunity to do this. The American people did decide that Trump should be in charge for the last 4 years, or this 4 years, and Trump's still in charge. It's still his responsibility to fill vacancies, so he should. there's no legal basis, no precedent for this argument that he shouldn't be able to. In fact, there's a precedent based on wow. Why can't I say this guy's name? Scalia there is a precedent that because of Scalia dying that he should. He's just following the rule book the Democrats put out. Not that there is any rules about this.
Yeah.
Multiple Democrats have stated that they intend to pack the courts if they gain control of the Senate and the House. This would mean that adding more justices to the Supreme Court so that they could appoint more to offset Trump's nominees. That I know you're okay with Trump doing it because you wanna hit first so that they don't, so they can't. But if you pack the courts, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a Republican presidency after Trump, or this time with Trump. So they'll just pack it even more after you've done it. So it doesn't really solve anything. The only real solution, like I said, is to pass a law or a constitutional amendment setting a hard limit.
But the problem is, though, I don't think that you're correct on that, Dyer, because you're assuming that there's going to be a back and forth. There is, and I know
I
that
went there.
because every time they say there's going to be, it's this is the last election ever. This one, the Democrats have some pretty lofty goals on this next round here. They want to be making new states. They want to bring in D.C. as a state. They want to bring in Puerto Rico as a state. They want to be reworking how national elections work. They want to be reworking how voter ID laws work.
They want to destroy the republic.
Well, exactly. So you get Democrats in if they are getting control of. If the Democrats were to get control of the presidency, and then Biden would be nominating a Supreme Court justice and getting control of the Supreme Court, then you would have a absolutely. If the Republicans did not sweep the Congress, you would have a ridiculous amount of laws going through over the next 2 to 4 years that would just get rubber stamped by Biden and Harris and then approved by the leftist Supreme Court on 5-4 decisions every time. You would have decisions that made it nearly impossible for Republicans to ever win again. You would have you'd have possibly four more Democrat senators from D.C. and Puerto Rico.
Are we talking about Trump doesn't stack the court? Is that what you're saying? If Trump doesn't do that?
Yes. I'd say, I'm not saying Trump needs to stack the court right now. I'm just saying if he doesn't make an appointment now.
No. I'm saying he should make an appointment, but he shouldn't stack the court.
No,
So
I'm not saying that. I was never suggesting that. I'm just saying, like, if they're going to do it, like, they've already said they're going to do that. I'm just saying, like, well, maybe we should do it first, but we don't need to do that right now. There's no way we're going to be able to get, I don't think they're even going to be able to get one Supreme Court justice.
Then what I say was wrong. We're in agreement on the thing you're talking about.
I don't know. I think I wasn't talking to you. I was just like talking to the audience, and now you've broken my train of thought. I don't know.
You started off with saying I think you're wrong about that. I'm like, but you're just going on to.
I think you were like attributing to me like that I had wanted that to happen. I'm like, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. Oh, it was the back and forth. My point is, and yes, you are wrong on that. That there's not going to be a back and forth. Is my point. If they win this time, I think that they will do so much damage to the country and the way the laws are structured, it will not be possible for Republicans to ever win again. So, to the extent that if packing the court is the way to prevent that now, if that's the stopgap now,
prevent it, though.
I don't think it would either. But
they would just.
I think you're absolutely wrong that there's going to be a back and forth, that there would be an arms race. That they'll pack the court this year, and then in 4 years we can pack the court.
Okay.
No, there's not going to be a handoff. It'll be 50 years of Democrat rule.
Hear me through. Okay. If they win and Trump has appointed a justice like we're expecting him to try, right?
Yeah.
And they then pack the courts. There's no difference between that scenario and go back to a second scenario. Trump puts in a justice and also packs the court. Now there's 15 justices and additional 6 for the conservatives. They'll just pack the court more, and the scenario will be unchanged. Either scenario, if Biden gets the office, they will pack the courts and will have the same exact control of the Senate.
Well, I guess assuming that they don't pack the court when Biden gets in, and let's assume that Trump actually gets in a nomination, he actually gets it passed all the way through, and then assuming Biden doesn't pack the court because it would look too bad. It would look too...
Sure, like they
yeah,
care
I know,
about that.
I know. Well,
Sorry,
she does have to wait like another 9 months, and then Harris can pack the court for him. But that would be... It would at least make them look like the bad guys plausibly. But I don't know. I think that at this point, the Democrats have shown absolutely... They will do anything. They will do anything. They will say anything. They will do anything to you just to retain power and to make sure that you are ground under their heel. And literally anything that we can do to stop that is great. It's a bonus points if the things that we do to stop that are like constitutional and principled. Like that's bonus points. But like at the current state is they are coming for you. We have several stories tonight about people just living their lives in their houses that they own, and then the mob's coming after them, and then they get arrested. You will be arrested for being white. You will be arrested for having a gun that you lawfully own under the Constitution. You will be arrested for having a Trump flag.
Yes.
You will be arrested for not kneeling in front of Black Lives Matter and...
Or dare eat at a restaurant.
Yes. Yeah, this is like the state of the country. All the stuff that's been happening this summer with the Black Lives Matter riots, that's preview. That's all testing stuff. That is what they want this to become. That's what they want America to become. How do we know that? I'm not just like spouting that out as like a crazy right-wing conspiracy. No, we see this every single time there is a Marxist revolution throughout history. Every single time the party takes power, the Communist Party will take power, and they force the rest of the population, they subjugate them. It's not enough just to exist in communism. You have to worship it. You have to be there groveling and do these struggle sessions. We see this every single time. You look at every single Marxist country that had a revolution throughout the last 100 years, every single time it's the same. They're trying to do that now. They are trying to do that in the streets. They will arrest you just because they've pointed out that you're a Nazi. They will arrest you for being the wrong skin color. They will arrest you for being the wrong religion. They will come and burn down your house. They will burn down your business. They'll smash your windows. They do this every single time. And the BLM stuff they're doing over the summer is just preview of that. If whatever we can do to stop that from happening nationally, a Biden-Harris and then them sweeping the other branches, that is what you will get. That's what you'll get. That's what we're trying to stop.
All that said, I'm very big on the principle, the military doctrine of economy of force. So no matter what, us packing the courts or not packing the courts doesn't change that scenario. What you need to do is focus on the root problem, and the only way to prevent this from that nightmare scenario of at one point someone or most likely the Democrats packing the courts in the future is not to pack it ourselves, but to make it so that there is a constitutional amendment saying that there is a certain number of justices, and that's the number. But that said, what about this claim that Ruth is an honorable justice?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked. So the Ruth Bader Ginsburg has this like kind of like cult of personality. I don't know why. I don't know why. A lot of people love her. I guess it's cool that she's a Supreme Court justice. Trump said, she was a wonderful woman and like all this stuff. And a lot of people say that. That happens every time a politician dies. It's like, oh, they're such an honorable person. Like, all right. So I've had some, as I said last night when I found out, which is a little bit more than 24 hours ago. Dyer asked, how do we feel about this? And I was like, I don't know, I haven't thought about that yet. I've just focused on the political aspects of it. I've had some time to think about it, and I'll be honest, I think it's absolute bullcrap that she is an honorable justice, and here's why. Among her decisions throughout her lifetime, again being this living, breathing document, this like interpretation, finding stuff in the Constitution that we didn't know is there, and like reverse engineering rulings and logic to come up with her preconceived conclusion. Ruth being honorable is false. So we've known that Ruth was not doing well for several years now. More and more and more. It's been a joke for a long time. Like, hey, like no one's seen Ruth for a while. Like, is she still alive? They'll do like little puff pieces where they show her like lifting weights or something like that. Little like 3-pound weights. We know this for a fact. Her last at least 2 years, her decisions were mainly done by her intern staff because she was so sick and she was so unable to, perform her duties. So we had one of the highest offices in the land, a Supreme Court justice. It's one of the highest positions that you can do. And she had, because she was unwilling to retire early, she held on to that position and then was derelict in her duty by passing it off to interns. We had a gaggle of unelected interns, poli-sci majors. I didn't graduate with a poli-sci major. I was a poli-sci major my freshman year, and I decided this is stupid. I'm going to go do business. Poli-sci majors are almost as bad as SJW majors. So she has a bunch of like college kid poli-sci majors interning for free, unelected, doing Supreme Court decisions on like swing vote issues on 5-4 decisions. That is absolutely disgraceful. It is dishonorable that she allowed interns to run her position for so long. It was not an honorable thing to do. It was absolutely disgraceful. Dyer, you're a military guy, so you guys have a lot of language about honorable and dishonorable execution of your duties. Would it be honorable for you? Like, would we consider you to be an honorable soldier if instead of doing your duties yourself, you just passed it off to a bunch of interns that weren't even in the military?
That wouldn't be honorable. You'd be a dirtbag. I would fire myself if I'd done that. No.
And you would, by fire yourself, you mean that you would probably dishonorably discharge yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
those kind of people should not be in the military.
And I know the Supreme Court's not the military, but the point still stands. If you are tasked with a great responsibility and you've just decided that, well, I'm just going to pass it off to a bunch of interns that weren't elected, and I'm just going to go take a nap because I had cancer 4 times, that sucks. Like, it's not like I'm not upset at her for having cancer, but like, if she cannot do the job, it is not the honorable thing to cling to that literally with a death grip. That's what she literally held onto it with a death grip. That's not the honorable thing to do. It's in fact very dishonorable. The honorable thing to do would have been for her to say 5 years ago, you know what? I am no longer capable of faithfully serving my position, and I'm going to retire. That's what she should have done. She should have done that if she was so worried about Orange Man, she should have done that in November. She knew that Trump was running. She had 18 months of Trump election to see that he was running. She could have retired then and allowed Obama to pack the court back then. That was her choice to hang on to it.
Fox, if I were so badly injured, both either mentally or physically, where I could not effectively do my job, I, for the sake of honor and for my country, should step aside. I should leave the military, report my injuries. They'll do a review. They'll kick me out honorably, right? Mm-hmm. Because if I can't do the job, it doesn't matter. It's not about me. It's about the heavy burden of responsibility that's put upon that position and the job. That if I can't meet it, it's not that I'm a bad person that I'm no longer able to do it, but I can't keep doing it, because if I try, I will fail, and I'll be failing a lot of men and women who depend on me. Not only them, the ones that could die because I cannot, take care of them, I cannot do my job, but my entire country who is expecting me to do this job. And if I can't do it, I shouldn't be trying.
Yes, and it's dishonorable and selfish for you to do that.
Exactly.
And it was dishonorable and Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a dishonorable and selfish person. That's what she was. And that's how she died. And that's how she should be remembered, in my opinion.
Harsh.
Yes, I am ruthless.
Oh, man, you stole it from me.
Oh, God. So that's kind of how I feel on that. I always hate watching when a politician dies and all the other politicians just go, oh, he was such a good person, so like all right, whatever, not, okay, you can have done a good job, you can have done a bad job, it's just you are a person that died. Let's not make up. I think it's worse to make up stuff. What I said was very harsh, but I think it's actually worse morally to just make up stuff and be like, oh, she was a great person, and like not have any backing for that or not actually believe that. Go ahead.
I lost all respect for anyone in the media saying that someone who died was a great person when they started saying that Castro was a great person.
Or what the hell's his name, was a austere religious scholar.
Yeah, like, okay, you guys' opinions are very skewed. No one you praise now is any value because the high bar you set was a terrorist and a communist dictator as being great. So I guess everyone else you say is great is on that level. Or,
so, in conclusion, Ruthie should be remembered as a dishonorable person, and Trump should immediately, like hours ago, should say, these are my nominations. I nominate these 5 wonderful black Republican women to the Supreme Court. Please have the Congress, or have the Senate go through and approve them, please. Thank you. It's going to be great. It's going to be the best. I don't say that. People say it's going to be the best.
Everyone's been saying that they're great.
It's the best.
They're the best.
Make the Supreme Court great again.
Ever. Everyone's saying it.
Absolutely. Of the people that we know, I would like to see a Ted Cruz.
He said no.
I know. I'm sure, being from Texas, I'm sure Texas could muster another Ted Cruz style senator, but Ted Cruz is very, very good at the Senate, and I don't think he's done there.
Can we just clone him?
Huh?
Can we just clone him?
He's not that good. He's good. He's not that good. He's all right.
Can we just do double duty as both Senate and SCOTUS?
Yeah, I have this crazy idea. What if we designed a government? It'd be really efficient. What if, like, the legislature, the Supreme Court, and the executive were all just one person?
Yeah, we could come up with a new term for it, too, like
a Kong.
A Kong, yeah.
Yes.
Or maybe a different vowel. A Kang?
A
king! A king!
A king!
Why don't we do that?
Oh, my God. I think did we just reinvent democracy?
You're a dork. So next story.
Did we do the story to death yet?
I think we did.
Okay,
it's dead.
It's dead. Stop hitting it. It's already dead. Okay. Rest in peace. It's always sad when somebody dies. I know she had a family. She's probably somebody's grandmother and mother, and that is very sad. And it's always sorry for your loss, but I am not displeased that we have a Senate seat open, and Trump should definitely fill it. All right, moving on. The Democrats finally, I don't believe it. Dyer, did you mistype this? The Democrats finally say the right thing? No way. Oh, only after they were forced to say the right thing. Oh, okay. That makes more sense. I should have read the full sentence there. That now makes sense. Okay, so believe it or not, there have been over 100 days of rioting. I think we're up in like the 100 teens, I think, of rioting. These riots were only made possible by Democrat governors and mayors that have told their police departments to stand down, and also because of Democrat elected and Soros funded district attorneys that have refused to press charges against rioters, making it basically like a turnstile of the cops arrest them, the DA releases them, and then the cops rearrest them the next night, and then eventually they hunt down Trump supporters and execute them in the streets. It has been a matter of Democrats ignoring violence, and they have constantly provided political cover for the riots by insisting that looting, arson, and violent assaults, and also murders, are mostly peaceful. They've been 93% not arson, looting, and murders. Like 93%. That's pretty good odds, right? 93%. Biden, like, imagine if it was like 93% of your planes arrive not in a fireball on the ground. Like, that'd be pretty good, right? Like what if like 93% of your sandwiches were safe to eat? Like, what if
That's pretty terrifying.
That's pretty terrifying. Yeah, like what if there was a 93% chance that the group of people outside your house weren't going to break into it, murder you in the street, and then burn your house down?
It's not even that, though. So it's 93% of the individuals at the protest. So even at a protest that was violent and rioting, they're saying that, a large portion of people who were at the protest / riot weren't violent. When in reality, 74% of the BLM, specifically, I guess, events,
parties,
74% of them involved rioting. So even though 93% of the people weren't violent, 74% of the events were.
You know, I think that it wasn't so much that 93% of the people were peaceful protesters. I think that it was like 93% of the people were just like pussies. Like, they all showed up for violence, and like 93% of them were like, ooh, like, I don't quite have the balls to go burn something down.
Yeah.
But I support it.
They're counting the person in the Antifa kitchen who's passing out weapons and explosives, and they're saying those persons are not violent because they didn't actually do the violence, but they enabled it. All the people were those human shields that made it hard to find out who actually was doing the violence because they're in the way. They're enabling the violence happening around them.
Kind of
Sure,
like
they're peaceful, but they're helping the violence.
Kind of like Antifa. I'm about to light our YouTube channel on fire by what I'm about to say. Sorry, but it reminds me of that. I think it was Pew, or no, I think it might have been Pew. They did that research poll on Islam throughout the world and all the various countries, and while we know that 55% of people who practice Islam aren't putting on suicide vests, we do know that 55% of adherents around the world do support people who putting on suicide vests. So, like, it's kind of like, I guess, I mean, would you consider them to be peaceful if they support it, but they're not willing to put on a vest themselves? Like, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm seeing with Antifa, where you've got the people that are willing to go burn down a police station, and then you got the people who are like, I don't know if that's for me, but I support it.
On that same study from Pew, they're like, in some countries in the Middle East, 90% of people supported the state executing gays.
Yes.
But 23% of American Muslims were for it.
You know, when I see material from like...
You know what 23% is? It's millions.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, Islam's got, what, like 2.5 billion adherents worldwide. You know, seeing some of the Western LGBT propaganda, sometimes I don't blame them. But let's rescue me from this, Dyer. Just start talking.
Digging.
Ooh,
Enable
hold
the
on.
violent
Hold on. So restart that sentence. You weren't transmitting. I bumped my microphone. Sorry. Restart.
Not only have they funded, praised, and enabled the violent revolutionaries, that's what this is, it's a revolution, they're trying to overthrow the government, but they have actively, the Democrats have actively directed them. Hillary Clinton suggested in an interview that people should be rising up against Trump in the streets, encouraging the violence. Ayanna Pressley, you know that the member of the squad that no one can remember the name of? Yeah, it's Ayanna Pressley. Not very important. She said, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Well, didn't Nancy say something about, like, she's surprised that there wasn't more uprisings? Or was that Hillary?
Yes, that was Nancy Pelosi.
Okay, Nancy Pelosi said that, okay.
I mean, there's been lots of Democrats who have made similar statements.
Yes. At this point, it's almost like they have party consensus that they would like there to be violent revolution in the streets. It's almost like they've all said that. Except for, like, that, you know, the reason why it's almost like they all said that is because they actually all have said that.
Yeah, it's also the media, which is basically just the part of the Democrat Party as well. So, like, Chris Cuomo said, where does it say? He asked this question. Where does it say that protesters have to be polite and peaceful? I don't know. The Constitution, where it says that you have the right to peaceably assemble. The word being peaceable. Chris Cuomo apparently doesn't know how to read. Yes, the protests are lawful.
You know,
as long as they are peaceful.
I actually would believe that Chris Cuomo doesn't know how to read, except for the fact that I know
Reads a teleprompter.
I know he reads a teleprompter. That's the only reason why I would like. They probably taught him how to read when he accepted the job, but like that's the only reason why I would think that he knows how to read.
They never taught him to think, though. They definitely taught him to read. So, and then we have Maxine Waters, who infamously ordered her supporters to find members of the Trump admin and in public areas, get in their face and let them know that they weren't welcome, trying to get people to mob Republican administrative officials in the streets. These are just a few of the many statements. I'm not going to make a full list because they're on full display for us to see, but these are not rare statements from Democrats. They are saying these things all the time. So these are just a few of the times that they've made active statements supporting the violence. Their greatest support, however, has been their silence. When a Trump supporter gets executed, they say nothing.
Isn't that violence? Silence.
Silence can be violence according to them.
Also,
apparently.
talking is violence. So
yeah, saying words or saying nothing can both be violence.
Isn't the solution just to exterminate all the people that they don't like? Wouldn't that be the solution?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I'm understanding it now.
They will talk about one right-winger, far right-winger, who has no support from the president, running over a Democrat, Antifa member for years. Yes, we've gone to the referring back to Charlottesville. They've been referring back to that for years, but they don't talk about someone going up and in cold blood executing a Trump supporter with a gun.
And they don't talk about the Bernie bros going after Republican congressmen, and they don't. I am very Dayton, Ohio is important to me, and they do not ever mention the Dayton shooting where there was a mass shooting that killed I think it was like 20 people, and it was an Elizabeth Warren supporter. He was a crazy socialist, and that was the same weekend that El Paso happened. And in El Paso, there was like 10 or 15 people that died as well. And they labeled that guy in El Paso a far-right extremist, even though he was an environmental extremist. He was an eco-terrorist. He was like a tree hugger who wanted to murder humans. Like, that was his background. And they lump that entire weekend into they call it the El Paso shooting, and they lump all 25 deaths into the El Paso shooter, because if they were to mention Dayton, they would have to mention that guy was an Elizabeth Warren supporter. And I hate that they do that every single time. Every time they do that, and they always leave out Dayton, they always call it the El Paso shooting, and they always attribute all the deaths that weekend to El Paso. And El Paso wasn't even a Trump supporter, and it's so disgusting. It's so disgusting.
Yeah. And when a Trump supporter has the audacity to defend themselves against violent criminals, they will call them Nazis, call them evil, and then they will do puff pieces for the people that were trying to kill them. They did a puff piece for the guy who executed a Trump supporter. They did a puff piece for the guy who tried to shoot Kyle Rittenhouse, who chased him down, and luckily Kyle was able to defend himself. But they called Kyle evil for doing that. They've accused conservatives and Trump, who have condemned the violent rioters, as attacking free speech. They said anytime Trump goes out there and says, hey, the violence is bad, the burning down buildings is bad, Antifa and BLM are destroying your communities, I condemn this violence. Anytime he does that, they say, oh, you're attacking free speech, you're attacking peaceful protests. Instead of actually admitting that there's a problem, they're trying to say Trump's evil for condemning the violence and now they're saying, oh, we've been condemning it. But no, you've been attacking people who have condemned it. You've said that they were the problem.
Yes. Where are we at?
After all of that,
this week, the Democrats, they want us to believe that they were opposed to violence all along.
Oh,
All
what a
along, they opposed the violence, guys.
What a
They never
twist.
wanted violence. They never told you to go out in the streets. They never told you to go to the gasoline stations and go find them in the restaurants. You go tell them. Nancy Pelosi this week gave a speech on the House floor saying that she opposes violence on all sides. And in her statements come 1 week after Biden made a similar half-hearted condemnation of all violence and looting while refusing to call out Antifa or BLM, the groups who have been perpetuating all of that violence. Unless you're on the left and you are psychotic and you believe that all of the violence, arson, and looting was being committed by white supremacists, which there
I
is
think
people.
that's what they were doing, by the way. I think that the way they phrased their condemnations of
Yeah.
violence was to leave it open for the interpretation that it wasn't actually left-wingers, it was
Yeah.
actually the right.
So I've interacted with some people who actually do believe this, that they think that all of
They know
the
how to
violence.
breathe?
Huh?
I would assume they're so dumb they don't even know how to breathe.
Yeah, I know, right? It's curious how they're able to tie their shoes in the morning. But I've interacted with these people. They actually do think there are people out in the world who do think that all of the violence we've seen over the last almost 4 months now, they really do believe that all the violence was being perpetuated by white nationalists who had infiltrated these organizations and been perpetuating the violence. That's what they believe.
You're assuming Antifa aren't just white nationalists.
Yeah, now that is true. Now, I do agree that Antifa is a white supremacist organization, but what they mean by white supremacist, white nationalist, is they mean Trump voter. They don't actually mean white supremacist. They mean Trump voter. They're using that as an interchange there, which is leads us to like problematic definitions, but the left has also destroyed the concept of defining words and terms that have meanings. But so it's interesting though when you talk to these people, because they simultaneously believe that only white nationalists are perpetuating the violence and the arson, and then you say, well then wouldn't you support the police going in and like arresting them? They say, No. Like the police would only arrest the peaceful protesters because they're in league with the white nationalists. And I'm like, so you think that the police are supporting people that are burning down police stations? And then they get upset and they leave, or they like yell at you, or like other things. But like, if you get them down to that, if you can establish that, one, they believe all of the violence is white supremacists, and that, two, they also think that the police are in league with the white supremacists, and then you ask them about, well, why would the police be defending the white supremacists burning down police stations? They will like, something will happen. They might even possibly, just the NPC code might get so gummed up, they might just disappear from reality. That's a possibility too. So this statement from the Democrats is very hollow. It's very little, too late. And it does not make up for, and it wasn't even intended to make up for, realistically, all of their support for the violence realistically, the entire time of the Trump administration. This left-wing violence, we've seen this for the last 5 years. Since Ferguson.
It's like slapping a Band-Aid on an
Yeah.
arterial bleed.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It does nothing.
Yes. Or putting a tourniquet on the limb that was severed, not on the body.
Even better.
I heard you told me that, like,
Helping.
I heard that you told me, like, some of the guys, like, they will pre-tourniquet themselves, and it's
Yes.
like, what if it gets blown off, like, on the other side of the tourniquet?
That sucks.
That you've, like, now you've lost your arm and your tourniquet. You've really screwed yourself over there.
Yeah, a lot of guys, particularly special forces guys, they put tourniquets on their arms and legs,
Not like
loosened up.
not tightened, yeah.
Yeah, loosened up, ready to cinch down in case they get shot in those appendages.
We decided that was a quick test as to whether or not they were optimists.
Yeah, I can tell you're an optimist or not. Yeah.
Yeah. If you've pre-tourniqueted yourself, you are a pessimist.
Well, I think, put it this way: I know a helicopter pilot who got shot through the legs to the bottom of the Black Hawk, and his co-pilot,
I saw that movie.
The co-pilot had to go down in his crotch area and try to get a tourniquet around his leg after he's already been shot and is bleeding out, and he's also flying the plane, right? Flying the helicopter. So, like, it would have been easier if he just had a tourniquet sitting there. He's sitting in a chair, for God's sake. I mean, it's not that much
Also, this is like a total aside. We had also discussed that it might be smart design to integrate tourniquets into the uniform. But so if anybody that's listening has can influence the design of the uniforms,
I'll do my best.
Yes.
So moving on, some Democrats have tried to say that Biden has condemned violence before, like early on, and they're referring to a letter he wrote. And I put "wrote" in quotes because I highly doubt he wrote it.
A letter that Biden's name was on.
A letter that Biden had his name on that he may not even be aware of or remember, but on May 31st. That's the 5th night of the demonstrations. Yes, that was way back in May.
Jesus.
They use this letter as a fact check to claim that Democrats have refused a fact check against the claim that Democrats have refused to call out the riots, saying, "Oh no, Biden actually did." In the letter, Biden said, according to the letter, if you believe he wrote it, that protesting police brutality is a right and necessary, and the American response, but burning down communities and needless destruction is not. And it also says that violence that endangers lives is not violence that guts and shutters businesses that serve the community is not. So that is a condemnation, again, of the violence, but not of Antifa or BLM directly. Wow. A letter that... this letter that no one has read and no one knows about except for bringing it up for these fact checks. So brave of Biden to put out a letter that no one's going to read. That doesn't really explain, though, why he decided to fundraise with Kamala Harris to fund the violence that he is supposedly calling out. If he was calling out in May, why months later was he fundraising for BLM?
And to be real clear, multiple other independent journalists, also including Andy No, have traced several violent arsonists and other violence-related arrests to people that were previously bailed out by the Minnesota Bail Fund that Kamala Harris was supporting.
Yeah. Just one example, one guy was arrested 4 times before going on and committing I don't know if it was a violent assault or a murder, but he finally went to jail for it.
Did you know, so that tweet that Kamala Harris sent out advertising for the Minnesota Defense Fund, people keep retweeting that over the last few months saying, like, don't you regret this now? And she hasn't deleted it. Did you know that the link in the tweet that she sent out, it doesn't take you to the generalized Minnesota Defense Fund website. It takes you to a Kamala Harris branded website where the payment portal, like, it's an independent payment portal that goes into the defense fund, but it's like it's like the Biden Harris campaign branded website, and you got her face real big next to it, and it talks about Biden and Harris for America, and it's like it's a campaign styled website. And you can go through and you can donate to the Minnesota Defense Fund through it. But, like, she went through the effort of having somebody. She wasn't just, like, retweeting, like, a support page where she, like, didn't know what it was. She actually, the campaign went through the effort of rebranding it to the campaign, and they sent it out. Like, you want to tell me, like, that was just, like, an accidental, like, oh, she didn't really realize she was retweeting it? Like, no, there was a lot of thought and effort behind that. She really supported it.
If it was an accident, she would have taken it down by now as well.
Well, you don't just accidentally make a new website.
Oops, I just made a website by accident. Sorry.
My bad.
My bad. It happens, you know. Yeah. Who hasn't really? Who among us hasn't, generated a website?
Yeah. So... so we went through, like, the Democrats are pretending that they were opposed to violence, but I think we know that they weren't. But do you know who was opposed to violence and who actually did something to stop the violence?
Obviously, no one, right?
Obviously not. It definitely was not the Democrats in the Democrat-controlled cities, in the Democrat-controlled states where the violence was taking place. No, it wasn't them, but it was Trump. Trump deputized, among other things, several local and state police. And basically what that means is, well, it was the FBI that did it. It wasn't Trump himself, but the FBI gave the state troopers and some city police the ability to arrest people for federal charges. So what was happening is, as we said earlier, you had state and local police were arresting rioters, arsonists, and looters, and murderers. And then the city DAs were just sending them right back out the same day, and then they were back out committing arson and looting again the next night. And the police kind of got tired of arresting them over and over again, and then no charges actually being brought to bear against them or them being kept in jail. So the FBI deputizing the local police like this allows them to, when the state trooper arrests somebody, say, I'm not sending you into the city court system, I'm sending you into the federal court system. And then the federal DAs say, you are going to jail, sir. We are going to be pressing full charges. Additionally, we've had, and so that's actually kept a lot of people off the street. Now that when they're arrested, they're actually going to jail. We've also seen a lot of content from Antifa, very panicked, saying, the FBI is coming to people's doors during the day, coming and finding the leaders and then serving them warrants and also arresting them on their doorstep. And this really got Antifa scared because that's never happened before. So good on Trump's FBI and DOJ for finally getting onto that. Additionally, so rioters are now facing a year or more in jail, depending on what they were arrested for, instead of just going through that turnstile in the city court systems. And according to Attorney General Barr, some of them could also be being charged with sedition. Two Democrat lawyers who firebombed a police car I think it was in New York. That was a few months ago. They are now facing a maximum of life in prison for deciding to go out with a Molotov cocktail. And those sedition charges are also being considered against the Democrat mayors who have directed their police to stand down, and then also the DAs that have been allowing dangerous criminals back out on the streets to terrorize the citizens night after night after night. We don't live in like Venezuela. Like, there is guaranteed civil rights by the federal government. If the states have sovereignty within the Constitution, if the states are running the state and they are allowing their citizens of the Union to be terrorized and have their rights and their privileges being undermined by criminal activity, and the state's not doing anything about it, it is the responsibility of the federal government to step in and protect those citizens of the Union, and that's what's happening right now. And because of all the rhetoric about revolution, that is what is opening the door to Barr possibly being able to charge some of these people with sedition, which would be a hell of a thing.
Equal protection under the law also includes actually having the police provide equal protection. It doesn't mean that they are going to save you when you're being attacked by a mugger, no. But if you have the police just refusing to go in and stop people from destroying your business, but will protect other people, then you're not getting equal protection, right? That also goes into dereliction of duty as well, whereas it is the duty of the government officials to ensure the protection of the people within their jurisdiction. And if they are actively refusing to do that, then they are violating their human rights, their constitutional rights that are given to them. So they're going to have a hell of a lot of lawsuits, even if they don't get put in prison. They are liable for so much damage. And if Trump, I don't think Trump will, because he already denied them emergency aid to pay for the damage from the rioting.
Good.
The government should and probably will not be paying the bill for what the government officials are going to be sued for.
Because
right-
on giving bailouts for these states that have experienced the aggressive rioting, I think that, you know, the debt right now, just because of COVID and really before that, COVID really blew the lid off the debt, and it's just like, okay, I guess we're headed into super inflation no matter what. Might as well get your piece of the pie before that happens. I think it would be worthwhile for a Republican-controlled Congress and President Trump to approve some kind of bailout fund for directly to small business owners, something that would supplement insurance claims, and the state gets nothing. The cities get absolutely nothing, but business owners could get a direct payout out of.
Don't
some
stop
kind of pot.
there. Those businesses that were destroyed should be exempt from paying state taxes for 10 years.
Well, city taxes too.
City taxes too.
Yeah.
No taxes to the place that let the
Well,
business.
they
be
should
destroyed.
get refunded. That'd be a hell of a thing. Let's pass a federal law that forces the states to refund. Or what you could do is, because the states would never agree to that, is make a law where money that was being block granted to states, because that happens every year anyways, in the amount that is owed to these business owners, remove that from the block grant to the state and give it directly tax-free to the business owners.
You know, if you do that, it will reduce the insurance cost across the board, right? That's cool.
Yeah, that's another thing, because your insurance, it doesn't matter what you're insuring, because a lot of insurance companies handle multiple categories. This event this summer, between this and COVID, insurance is going to be absolutely through the roof forever on. Like, absolutely ridiculously through the roof because of this.
Yeah, my home insurance is going to go.
Did you hear the new numbers of the destruction totals are up over $2 billion now, based
Yeah,
based
I heard
on
that.
So this is being reported by Axios this week. Insurance claims from small business owners due to the riots. We've been quoting $1 billion for a while now. Axios got the scoop on insurance claims, and the insurance claims are in excess of $2 billion now.
And that still doesn't capture all of the the different what's the word? There's other factors that are not being measured there, so it's going to be well over $2 billion.
Yeah, and just because if your business burns to the ground and you get a bit of an insurance claim out of it, like, that doesn't quite cover what you've lost. Like, the business was meant to, like, provide you continuous revenue for as long as it existed. Like, it wasn't like the one-time insurance payout isn't like equivalent to like losing your bodega because some asshole burned it down.
It also doesn't bring people's lives back.
Yes, and it doesn't bring jobs back. So it's there's a lot of stuff that's not captured in that. So I would say certainly you could easily double that $2 billion to get a more appropriate number, but it probably still doesn't quite capture it.
Yeah. So the riots have slowed down a lot, and the White House siege that was supposed to be peaceful, but we know it wasn't going to be that. Of course, they're going to say that. It got canceled because the event coordinators were afraid that the people that go to it might get arrested. Of course, they'd only get arrested if they were, committing crimes.
Did you hear, last night they picked back up in Portland? They picked up full steam in Portland last night, actually.
That's what I said a lot. They did pick up in Portland. They have slowed down a lot, though, because of a lot of them not being able to return to the streets, and also because the fear of possibly being arrested. But they have picked it back up in Portland, but overall across the country, the riots have been reduced. Now, the new riots have started up yesterday and are going on tonight because of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because I guess people are rioting against death itself.
Are there riots for her? I saw that there was like
yes,
I thought there was
are.
like a candlelight vigil outside the Supreme Court building.
Rioting.
I was going to tweet something and then I decided to not tweet something, but I guess I can say it on the show. About like this doesn't look like a peaceful vigil honoring, because it was supposed to be like a candlelight vigil honoring Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I was like, I thought you honored people by like looting, burning, and destroying small businesses. Like, this isn't honoring Ruth. Like, these people are doing it totally wrong. We've been told for the last 5 months the way that you honor someone's life is by burning down cities in their name.
You honor life with death.
Yes, like I want to honor Ruth Bader Ginsburg by stealing a 55-inch TV. Isn't that the best way to honor her?
I need to rob a high-end cosmetic store. It's the only way to show my grief.
And then your wife can resell them.
Shh, shh, shh.
Okay. Have we?
No.
Okay.
So,
God, there's more.
Yeah, what protests have remained have some of them actually had some actual peaceful protests once the rioters were gone, even though they picked back up again. So Trump's the only one who's actually done anything. Now, the Democrats, I guess the takeaway from this is that they're liars. Biden recently claimed, in addition to lying that they had, again, the whole point of the story was that they were opposed to the violence when they actually have actively been supporting it. That's lie number one. They say, "Oh, we're always against violence," but then, well, for the last 4 years, have been encouraging it. Biden also said recently, and this is hilarious, when he was asked about whether or not he was going to defund the police, when he actually did say that he wanted to divert funds from the police in an interview. In his denial of him having said that, he claimed he had the gall to claim that Trump is the one who wanted to fund the police. Trump wants to defund the police, according to Biden.
They're still sticking with it. Like that's like the media messaging right now is like that they're sticking with.
At what point did Trump ever say anything about defunding the police? He's funded them more, if anything, the federal police.
I think he was trying to make funds available too. Like they were like there was like an attempt to make additional funding available to local police for these efforts, and like the cities rejected them.
Yeah, so that's a ridiculous, obvious lie. At no point has Trump ever wanted to defund the police. The only thing he has not provided funds for was paying for the damage caused to the cities by their own dereliction.
Inept policies.
Yeah, that's different. That's not defunding the police. If they choose to defund the police to repair the damage because they didn't use their police, that conundrum, that's their fault.
Yeah.
So then Biden and the Democrats claimed that Trump supports violence when they've been the ones supporting, and Trump's been actively, loudly opposed to the violence.
This is what you were saying earlier, along with what I was saying, was that there is a large amount of leftists out there that do wholeheartedly believe that all of the violence has been propagated by infiltrating white supremacists that were being directed by Trump. So that's where they're getting this idea that Trump's supporting the violence, because they think that the only people doing violence are Trump supporters, even though it's literally no Trump supporter has burned down a building at all. Like, I think I can pretty confidently say that.
And Democrats have, being BLM and Antifa, have very clearly burned down lots of buildings, and at least some of the fires, and maybe a lot of the fires in California, have been set by Democrats as well.
How many, I had a question a few months ago about, like, how many black kids is Antifa going to murder? Like, how many more before we achieve like racial equity? Like, because we're at like 5 or 6. Like is it like 10? Do they have a number that they're like trying to achieve? My additional question in that vein is like, how many small businesses do we have to burn down to achieve racial equity? Like, is it 1,000? Is it a 10,000? Like, do they have an end goal in mind, or is it just like
it's kind of one of those things like you'll know when you're
okay. So like at some point, we don't know what the number is, but at some point, Antifa will have killed one more black kid, and like something will happen. Be like, oh my god, like that was it. That was the one. We've achieved racial equity now.
It's basically the process. Like you kill a black kid, and then then you check. Oh, do we have equity? No. Okay, then go kill another one. You keep killing them until you have racial equity.
Yeah. And context for that joke, because it sounds like an awful joke. The context for that joke is like Antifa is responsible for actually executing lots of people, but like specifically multiple black kids have been killed by Antifa. In the Chaz in particular, we had 3 that were shot by the Chaz security, the quote unquote Chaz security executed 3 black kids that were like 16 and 15.
Just driving a car by and just the car with
they're just doing donuts, which is like, I mean, don't do donuts in the middle of the street, but like they were being lawless like the rest of Chaz was, and then the Chaz security decided to go up and like just
You can't be
kill it.
lawless like us.
Yeah.
Only we can be lawless. We're gonna shoot you now.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
But don't shoot us.
yeah. So at some point it'll be enough, right? And then we'll just achieve racial equality. But
Yeah, I mean, it'll happen eventually. I hope. Well, their war faces be red.
Yeah. So we run into this issue, and I think we've kind of discussed this on the show a little bit. I think you and I have discussed it in the past. Is what is the solution for like? Hey, that's the wrong word to use. But like, what do we do with like
For a
these?
final solution to our problem.
Maybe. The problem is that you have these people in the world right now who look at what's been going on for the last almost 4 months, and they think that has been Trump supporters burning down the cities. Like, they actually believe that. I don't, like, if somebody actually believes that, like, there's no way to make them understand. Like, I don't know how you would actually make them understand. And so
there's two kinds of people that are in that category. So there's the people who are brainwashed and never taught to critically think. Their brains are inherently broken,
Yes.
and they are susceptible to this messaging. Those people, they can be reprogrammed to believe another set of things and not view that set of things critically. Right? Those people will forever their lives be broken because they went past the mental gates in the development where they would learn to actually think as a non-NPC. Those people are not fixable; they are reprogrammable. Now that sounds
the solution, unfortunately, would be then just to re-propagandize them to our side. I don't like that.
I don't like that at all. It sounds pretty fucking creepy.
But it's safer. Like, I would rather use propaganda on them to reconvince them to our side with propaganda rather than having them out there screeching that Orange Man is bad and then maybe stalking me and executing me in the streets. I would, like, as much as using propaganda goes against my principles, I would rather do that than have them come stalk me and execute me in the streets. So
it's kind of like teaching them to not want to kill me. So anyways,
yes, maybe we could also teach male feminists to not rape, but let's not get too crazy.
So the other type of people in that category are people who do know how to critically think, but their information has been restricted to nothing but lies. And they have built up a lot of their recent worldview on these lies and are going to be resistant to hearing counter information because they've been taught so much a body of evidence against that worldview, right? Those people, they can be fixed, but it's hard.
Yes.
And they're not the majority, by the way. That's what you realize. Some people in that group are that category.
Yep. You know what?
Oh my God.
Jared, do you know what would be easier than teaching a male feminist to not rape? Achieving peace in the Middle East is literally easier than teaching male feminists not to rape. And that's exactly what Trump did this week. How's that for a tie-in?
Fuck you. That's hilarious.
We literally got peace in the Middle East is easier than teaching male feminists to not rape.
It's true.
So, as you guys may have heard this week, the Trump administration finally closed the deal on a very hard negotiated peace deal between Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain, which I will admit, I didn't know Bahrain was a country until this week. These peace deals involved the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain formally accepting Israel as a country and as existing and also having a right to exist. There's a lot of stuff wrapped up in that. In exchange for having embassies and ambassadors in all the countries and exchanging those, and also to begin cooperation across a broad range of fields, including education, healthcare, trade, and security, and also making it so that America doesn't have to just pour ungodly amounts of gallons of U.S. blood into the soil of a place that most people can't identify on a map.
So it's called
the tree of Middle Eastern liberty must be watered by the blood of Americans.
So it's a Bahrain, not Bahrain. Not that it's important. A lot of people pronounce it that way.
I think it sounds more fun to say Baja.
It sounds way better to say Bahrain because it sounds like you might be going to a beach area that's
Yeah,
fun, has surfing.
Yeah,
Maybe some-
exactly. Or like
Yeah.
those like sand buggies. Like Bahrain. Yeah.
Sounds way more fun than Bahrain. But the reason these peace deals are historic is because it is the first peace deal between Israel and any major Arab nation since 1994. It's historic because every president for the last 40 years has attempted to negotiate peace between Israel and their Arab nation neighbors and have failed. All of them have failed, but Trump has succeeded. The last peace deal was a deal where Israel gave up their territory and gained nothing but promises that were then never realized. Their neighbors went back to attacking them just the same as before, and not recognizing them as a country. They gave up land and gained nothing. Not a great peace deal. So you could even say that the 1994 peace deal doesn't even count.
Yeah,
But-
and this also basically, this peace deal basically removes the idea that Palestine is like a legitimate thing.
Yeah.
It never was, and like the other Arab nations in the area acknowledging Israel like really disrupts that narrative that Palestine was ever a thing.
So Obama, after 8 years of trying, and after forcing Israel to make major concessions...
8 years of trying what? To destroy Israel?
Basically, yes. They made Israel make concessions and gain nothing, just like the 1994.
And also, at the same time he was making Israel make concessions, he was helping Iran make a nuke.
There's that, too. You're making it sound bad when you say it like
I
that.
almost
So-
am making it sound like he was working against Israel.
It's not like he gave him a plane full of money. What? He totally did that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason Obama
did.
and his predecessors failed was exemplified by comments made by Obama's Secretary of State, John Kerry. Kerry said that it was impossible for there to be any peace deal between Israel and any other Arab nations unless it included the Palestinians.
Didn't Kerry also like break like some really high it was like a constitutional statute even when he was going out to
Yes.
Iran after Trump was elected.
So
Kerry,
you're allowed
what
to-
do you want to explain the story with the
Yeah,
context?
so-
Okay.
So Kerry went out after Trump got elected and went around to a bunch of different countries, and particularly the ones in the Middle East, and told them to disregard Trump, don't
Wait it
work with
out.
Trump, wait it out till the next election because Trump's going to leave. He also was, I think, under the impression he was going to get actually removed via
Yes.
other
Kerry
means.
told them that he was going to be impeached in like less than 2
Impeached.
years.
Yeah, so he says they're going to be impeached. Don't work with Trump. He undermined the U.S. Ability to negotiate in the region. He slowed the peace deals that are being passed now by telling those countries not to negotiate with Trump at all because he wouldn't be in office. And it is against the Constitution to do any kind of advocacy or speaking on behalf of the U.S. government unless you're appointed and given authority by the president. So he was actually breaking the law and got away with it.
Well, it's okay when the Democrats do it.
That's why here you can do it. You can break any law as long as you're a Democrat.
Are we
Um,
where are we at?
So I was saying this was the position. This was the position that all of the former presidents held. That for you to have peace in the Middle East between Israel and the Arab nations, you had to include the Palestinians. That was what. And John Kerry said it so confidently. He said it was impossible. He used the word impossible. No one could do it. They're not smart enough. You have to be pretty high-tier brains like us to know that Palestinians have to be included.
And it wasn't
they were-
just John Kerry, though. It was the entire establishment, the Republican establishment,
Yes,
the Democrat establishment, all of the quote-unquote academic intellectual establishment for, like, decades have
40
said...
years.
Have
Republicans
said,
and Democrats
Yep.
alike. They were so sure of this fact, they were unwilling to try any other avenue of peace.
Yes. It had to be that Palestine was included. Which is a problem, because the Palestinian government is controlled by Hezbollah, which some people would refer to as some people. who do some things. Because Hezbollah is a terrorist group. Those are the things that they do. Whose stated mission is to, quote, destroy Israel. Huh.
Sounds like a problem.
Yeah, like imagine if Mexico, like the Mexican Constitution, which I don't know if they have a constitution. Imagine if their Mexico's Constitution had in the Constitution that the stated purpose of the Mexican government was to destroy America. That is what Israel's been living next to for 40 years.
And not only is it their words, they've been actively trying to do that. They have been trying to sneak across the border through tunnels and any avenue they can just to murder civilians.
The Iron Dome that Israel has is a near apex of rocketry and mathematics, like almost an apex of like human achievement of like shooting down bullets with other bullets is absolutely genius. But the only reason they had to develop it is because there's rockets coming in at all hours of the day directed at schools and synagogues, and like hospitals, and they'll launch the Hezbollah from Palestine will launch these rockets from Palestinian schools and Palestinian hospitals with women and children playing around them so that Israel can't respond to the launch site. And so they had to build the Iron Dome system so they could shoot them out of the sky on the way. Like, that is who Palestine lives next to. Imagine if, like, Mexico was just, like, you know, casually launching rockets into Texas. Like, and then, like,
well, and then the EU's like is over there across the ocean saying, "Guys, relax, don't react." All right. Yeah. When you destroy those launch pads with people firing missiles at you, you're the bad guys.
Yeah. It'd just be like I don't know, like France. Like let's pretend this was happening. So Mexico's just randomly lobbing rockets into Texas, and then we're like, "Hey, Mexico, can you maybe stop doing that?" And France is like, "You guys are bad for wanting them to stop.
Stop yelling.
Yes,
you're so
overreacting." Yes, France saying, "You guys are overreacting. Just try have baguette." And then also saying that maybe the solution would be to just give Texas to Mexico is what France is saying. And then we would rightfully say, "Fuck off, France." And so that's what's been going on with Israel, is that they have this threat on their border, and a lot of countries that don't live next to them have been telling them how they should just let it go. And Trump is one of the first, Trump's the first president. Obviously, there's been a lot of politicians who've agreed with him, but Trump's the first president that has made it the stated U.S. foreign policy that, no, Israel, you don't have to deal with that. We're going to try and find another solution for that. So America has been, like I said, Trump's the first, but for like the last 40 years of like Palestinian existence, I guess, America has been demanding that the only avenue for peace must include a buy-in from a group that does not want peace, from the Palestinians. American foreign policy up until Trump has been that Israel needs to make concessions to this terrorist group, and that there's no other route for peace. Because we all know that like the best way to get a terrorist group to stop being terrorists is to give into their demands, right? Like we all know that's okay. Yeah, obviously that's worked every single time. Oh wait.
Yeah, and peace negotiations never work when the parties involved don't want peace.
Yeah,
it's just not how that works.
Yeah, because Palestine's charter is the destruction of Israel. like what is the middle point? Like, do you just meet them halfway of like, we'll just destroy half of Israel? Like, all right. So Trump, on the other hand, changing from the last 40 years of American policy, he took the rational approach of including only the groups in the peace talks that actually wanted peace.
What a revolutionary idea.
Oh my God, that's crazy. It's so insane.
I mean, I would never have thought of that. I mean, I thought I could get people who don't want peace to have peace.
Which is pretty good news, though. I mean, it's pretty good news that we finally got, this peace going.
Yeah. So the good news doesn't stop there. These peace deals may well lead to other Arab states like Saudi Arabia making similar deals. Trump is still working on brokering deals with those other countries in the region. This is something that the Democrats said was impossible, but Trump did it. Also, these peace deals are a big part of Trump's economic stranglehold deal with dealing or plan for dealing with Iran without using military force. They wants to have all these allies that are working and playing nice with each other and us, and willing to put not work well with Iran because they view us as being a better economic and steady ally to have. So that way we can put pressure on Iran, and then Iran will give up and not make nukes because otherwise their economy will completely collapse and their government will be overthrown. So other times, that's why these peace deals are not. It's not just these 3 peace deals. It could be far more of a strategy, and far more countries could also find themselves in peace with Israel, each other, and us.
Also, these peace deals, I think, like, let's not underpin it, because I know that there's a lot of you see it for a lot of reasons, but there's a lot of people who, for various reasons, and I tend to agree with them, is, it kind of sucks for Israel that this stuff is happening, but, like, I don't know, do we need to keep just throwing American bodies into the churn for them? Like, do we need to keep just dumping billions of dollars into them? Like, is that really a good use of, like, American blood and treasure? Like, is it? And I tend to agree with that. And again, there's a lot of reasons why people are Israeli skeptics, but whatever side you're on for that, whether you like Israel or you don't like Israel, or you think we should be over there or you don't think we should be over there, this is good because this will get the other Arab nations to help better secure the region and work with Israel to secure the region, a.k.a. we don't have to be there to secure the region anymore if they're doing it themselves. So if you don't really like Israel, this is great. This should be loved by everybody. People who do like Israel also love this because it's protecting Israel. This should be a very large uniting factor. Literally anybody who has an opinion on Israel should be thrilled to death that this is happening. This should be nothing but support for this happening. It only is good things.
I would love if we could stop having to fund their defense and also stop giving them our blood and treasure. I mean, even though I paradoxically want to deploy, but also morally don't want anyone from America to deploy overseas. It's a mental thing I fall into. I'm sorry.
Your illness should not dictate foreign policy.
So my illness is of like wanting to deploy does not mean I actually want any of us to deploy. Morally, I want us to stay at home and protect the country. Dude, you guys don't understand. You practice to do one job. Anyways,
head pats, Dyer, head pats.
I know. Anyway, so I would like us to stop dying in the Middle East for a cause that it's worthless. It's nothing to help America. And maybe they'll have less of an excuse to keep arguing why we should be over there if the place was secure, right? So other times Trump there's also been other times where Trump has done what the Democrats have said was impossible. I want to go over that. So not only has he found peace in the Middle East when they said it was impossible, Obama once said that 2% growth of the economy over his 2 terms was the new normal, and it would be impossible for the GDP to grow higher than 3%. Trump, by reducing regulation and taxes, has had growth of 4% in his first year. Again, showing that he was able to do the impossible.
Shouldn't that knock out the idea that the Democrats had that somehow the Trump economy was Obama kickstarted that? When
only if logic applied. He said that that's impossible.
Shouldn't the extra 2%, shouldn't that be well, Obama conceded that we could only ever get 2%. So the extra 2% belongs to Trump, shouldn't it? Can we at least make that?
So the thing is, COVID not being counted, Trump legitimately did really grow the economy, and he did a really good job of it, and well outpaced Obama because he actually had good policies. Obama's policies actually slowed down the recovery from the was it 2008 recession?
Yeah. It lengthened it out.
Yeah. So Trump. Obama was more of the brakes on the economy, and Trump was a supercharger on it.
Yeah. Okay, so we also, the response from this, so like I said, like, everyone should love this deal. Also, peace in the Middle East. Like, literally the only thing harder than getting peace in the Middle East is teaching male feminists not to rape, and we all know that that's impossible. So, like, this is, like, the most difficult thing that is possible to do, and Trump did it. And we've had 40 years of everyone who's supposedly smart about foreign policy saying that it can't be done this way. But Trump finally did it. So how did the Democrats respond? Well, Nancy Pelosi said that, like she said that border walls don't work, even though they do, and that border walls were a racist waste of money. Seems like a very much non sequitur, Dyer. They said...
No, you're missing that where we moved on to other things that he said that were impossible.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you get the part where Nancy said that it was a distraction?
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's where I thought this was leading. So I will add, because Dyer didn't put it there. So the response to this was that Nancy actually said, when she was asked about this, like, what did she think of the peace deal? Nancy said that it was basically like a non-issue and that it was a distraction, that Trump was using Middle East peace to distract the American people. Oh, okay, I guess. Like, I guess I'm just... Consider me distracted. Yes, consider me distracted. Yeah.
Distraction's a pretty good one.
Yeah. No, yeah, so Nancy said that just was...
It's like curing cancer as a distraction.
Yeah, this is just like a gimmick. Like, it's just a gimmick that Trump was doing to distract the American people. You know, like, the Democrats will distract the American people by going to war for no reason, and Trump distracts the American people by going to peace for no reason. Like, I just... The concept, it's so funny. Like, yes, Nancy, we are distracted by this peace deal. That's the, like, why is this a bad thing? Like, yes, it's a good thing. Like, Trump's just, like, this was like, it reminds me of that Trump supporter that was, like, organizing the cleanup crews in, like San Francisco, like, going around, like, cleaning up homeless camps and, like, helping them out. And, like, the media was just, like, they think that they're trying to make Trump... It's just a gimmick to make Trump supporters look good by going out and actually cleaning up the environment.
He lived in that area.
Well, no, but, like, yes, it is a gimmick that makes Trump supporters look good because they're actually doing it. Like, Trump's just using world peace as a gimmick. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Like, it does make him look good. He's just doing it to make himself look good. Well, yes, it does make him to look good. He achieved world peace. What do you...
You know what? You not doing it makes you look bad.
Like, what is the... Like, the Democrats just, like... They will take something that's, like, good and wholesome, and they'll pretend that there's some, like, ulterior motive. Like, Trump is, like... He has an ulterior motive for making peace in the Middle East. Like, he's just doing that to get reelected. Yes.
Yeah.
Like...
But if they had done it, which they can't because they're too stupid, it would have been a good thing.
like Trump's only doing good stuff for the American people so it'll get reelected. Yes. Like, you finally have figured it out. Like, in the Democrats' heads, like...
Wait. Do they not understand that they're supposed to do good things to the...
Well, given the state... Look at all the Democrat cities, Dyer. I mean, do you think that they understand that concept?
Oh, you're right.
Clearly not. So, like, they think that forcing the...
gossip to them.
Yeah. Like, the Democrats think that the way that, like... You know, you only do good things to the American people if you're trying to get elected. If you're a good politician, you force your people to live in squalor.
Yeah,
like,
literal shit.
And go to wars. Like, that's how they think, like, proper politicians should work. This idea that a politician would make the American people's lives easier and make peace around the world, like, that is a foreign concept to the Democrats.
The model statesman to a Democrat creates lots of wars and
poverty.
Has great
Wars and
cities,
poverty.
No police, and doesn't protect the people in their communities.
Like, it's just like Nancy saying that like she thinks that Trump's just creating world peace for a distraction. Like, her saying that, like, fundamentally reveals how Democrats interpret politics. Like, they actually think that doing good things for the American people and the world is like that's like a bad thing. Like, you're only doing that for corrupt reasons. Like,
does it ever bother you there's no one there to actually, like, debate them when they say crazy ass shit like this? Because, like, that begs a response.
Yeah,
but she's
like, what do you mean that's a good like yes, we should be distracted by that. Like, it's a good thing.
Well, we don't have a media who's willing to call him out on those obvious crazy things they say.
Absolutely insane. Okay, so in addition to really, really showing her cards right there, Nancy is also the one who said that border walls don't work and that they were a racist waste of money. The Democrats also said that it was impossible to stop illegal immigration with a wall. And in late 2019, Trump had completed most of the wall he had fought so hard to build. And again, there's been a lot of criticism that he hasn't made new wall, but he was replacing old wall that was no longer fulfilling its function.
A lot of them
as
weren't
a
even
wall.
walls. They were just like a log laying across two, pieces
so
of
it was
log.
it was barriers that were not fulfilling their function that like technically counted as border wall, but like Trump replaced it with effective barrier. And so like it really is new wall in the sense that there was an ineffective wall there, might as well have not exist. But like a lot of people give him criticism for that. He did actually do a lot of replacement. So the Democrats fought him every inch of the way, every inch of the border wall along the way to prevent him from building it, but he did it anyways. This year, border security saw a sharp drop in illegal crossings. Month to month, there have been less than 50% of the attempted illegal crossings as compared to 2019. You know, that's funny because I seem to remember a Democrat YouTuber who said that 75% of illegal border crossings are via plane. And so why would a border barrier stop that? Even though the argument's stupid because it's like, well, a border barrier would still stop 25% of them then if they're not coming over by plane. So how is it that we got illegal crossings down by 50% if that's more like 25% of them should have been coming on planes? I don't know. It's almost like Democrats cite false statistics. Let's see here. So those crossings that were occurring in are more focused in areas where there is no border barrier built yet. But again, Trump has done the impossible as per the Democrats. Which again, yeah, remember, like Nancy and Biden have like a combined over 100 years in Congress, and it's funny because like the like hope and changey kind of message that the Democrats have is like elect Joe Biden for change because he's only been in Congress for 47 years and this is the year everything changes. You thought you knew Joe Biden. You've never seen Joe Biden like this. It's going to be new and exciting and different. We promise. Yeah, fireworks, explosions. It definitely won't be the same exact thing that he's done for the last 47 years. Like it's not surprising that the Democrats think that these things are impossible because they've been trying it for literally lifetimes. I would almost guarantee you that 90% of the people that are listening right now, Biden and Nancy have been in Congress for longer than you've been alive. I know that that's true for me. I know that's true for Dyer. Probably true for a lot of you. They've literally been trying to do these things for a lifetime and failing at it. Of course they think it's impossible. It took Trump, someone who's not been in office forever, who was out in the real world solving real problems that had real consequences. He maybe kind of figured it out. But it's not surprising.
These same Democrats who said that building a border wall would never work were only a few years before that saying they wanted to build a border wall and put more funding towards border security. And they've been saying that for a long time, but they never actually did it. They said it was important. They said they needed to do it. They said they wanted money for it, but they never actually, when they got the money, they actually got money allocated to it. They never actually built it. They just put the money somewhere else. So for them, they thought it was impossible for someone to actually do it because if Trump did it, then it would show them up for having never done it in the past, right?
Well, I think the way the Democrats thought that it was impossible was they thought that it was impossible to like use the money in a way to enrich themselves and like make it plausibly look like it was going towards the border wall, whereas Trump was like, what if we just put the money towards the border wall and didn't use it to enrich ourselves? And then the Democrats are like, inconceivable.
Can we try not being corrupt this one time?
Inconceivable.
So over and over, Trump is able and has shown himself able to do what the Democrats said was impossible. maybe, just maybe, these feats are not impossible. Maybe the Democrats are just inept.
It's not maybe, Dyer. It is just literally that. All right. Well, happy days for peace in the Middle East. I was certainly very surprised to hear all of this. I hope. Look at these guys. Like, you see all these three people here. Like, they're people. Like, the citizenry. Not really Israel. They're pretty chill. The other two guys are like, their citizens kind of hate Jews. Like, to be like, actually hate them. But like, they all have like pretty genuine smiles up there, and like, this is being led by Trump and the people that he's chosen to surround himself with. We've had again, the establishment, and this was kind of done sideways from the State Department that was trying to help get Trump impeached earlier this year. Trump kind of ran this through other channels, through Kushner and his people. I mean, certainly with support of the State Department, but the State Department that was supposedly so great and wonderful, and should be listened to during impeachment, they haven't been able to get this peace deal done.
They're so bad at it that Trump had to go around them.
Yeah. Which, kind of makes me believe that maybe we should just flip the whole State Department.
Which makes me think that their jobs were not necessary.
What was
why are we paying someone so much money to do a job that they actually didn't do for the last 4 years?
And why are we paying that?
They got staffs of like hundreds of thousands.
What was that tubby boy? Who was he in the Navy or something? Army? Vushner or something with a V. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Air Force, man.
I don't know. He was a he was a little too tubby for the Air Force. I think I would need one of those C-130s to carry him around. But
maybe two.
Maybe we don't.
Definitely not an unladen swallow though.
Are we ready for the next story?
Yes.
Sometimes I'm concerned that we know what we're talking about. I'm concerned the audience doesn't. Maybe we should stop talking to each other offline because we develop too much shorthand. Okay. Alrighty, guys. So our next story is something I kind of referenced earlier in the show, which was about 2 hours ago now. A man was arrested for defending his home, his private property, with his Second Amendment right. This week, BLM mob went to the home of a white man in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They accused this man, this homeowner, of being a racist without evidence. They had no evidence to present that he had done anything racist, and not that any of those harassing him at his home really would have cared if they had evidence or not. It's just like, are we going to go harass this guy tonight? Like, it's not a matter of like, does somebody need harassing? It's a matter of who are we going to go harass next? We're going to harass somebody. It doesn't matter who, just pick one. And so the leaders decided to pick this guy, who may or may not be a racist, but there's no evidence that he is. Let's see here. So this person had organized, the leader of the group of Black Lives Matter local chapter, had organized the mob via Facebook and had also recently organized another mob at another home earlier, I think it was last month, that had resulted in the home being vandalized. I think it was also set on fire. Many of the people who vandalized that previous home were now at the current guy's home threatening him to do the same. So it was a bunch of people who had previously vandalized, possibly burned down a home of a homeowner, and then they were, I guess, not arrested. And then they were now at another house saying, we're going to do the same thing. And this guy believed them. So,
yes. For further context, just a week prior, 60 Black Lives Matter rioters attacked a black police officer at his home with his girlfriend, also in Wisconsin. And one of the rioters even fired a shotgun directly at him and barely missed him. I guess that black life didn't matter to them. BLM has burned buildings, attacked and killed people. This Wisconsin man had every reason to believe that his life was in danger and that his property was at risk. They may have accused him of being racist and for walking around the neighborhood with a racist flag, but the only evidence we've seen is that his home had a pro-Trump flag, which might be the racist flag they were referring to. And if that's what they consider racist, I'm not inclined to believe anything they say.
Well, we know that they think that just, being white and existing or supporting Trump and existing is like, racist, worthy of being exterminated.
Well, as we know, everything is racist, so yes.
Absolutely. I'm looking for a tweet, Dyer. I'm not just scrolling through Fox.
Sure you are.
I know. So this homeowner was faced with a mob at the home that he owned, and he was armed, as is his Second Amendment right, and he armed himself with a shotgun and pointed it at the crowd from inside of his house. When police arrived, they did not arrest the crowd of people harassing this person. They instead arrested the homeowner that was being victimized. These police officers were bastards. They were traitors to the nation and their people, and they are bad officers. We've talked about this in the show a few times, that the default back the blue is no longer serving the interests of conservatives. Certainly libertarians have not liked the police for a long time. Whole other story. But for the conservatives, default back the blue without confirmation is no longer justified. There's been too many examples of police that were so willing to follow orders and arrest law-abiding citizens that were defending themselves or just existing. There's been too many times that the police have trampled on the rights of law-abiding American citizens, and it's absolutely unacceptable. And my recommendation was that you can absolutely back the blue, but you have to verify. You have to know the policies of your local sheriffs, of your local departments. I suggested that maybe call or send a message to your sheriff asking, hey, we've kind of seen some of these things play out around the country. What is your policy on ordering your officers to enact unconstitutional arrests, like at the direction of the mayors and the governments? Like, is that something that you would support? I think that those are easy yes, no questions. I know in my area, my police are more friendly to constitutional rights than other areas, than Wisconsin is. So like I back my blue, but I think that the back the blue needs to be on local levels. It can't just be, oh, I see a cop, I'm going to default support him without any context. The days of that are over now, and a lot of these cops are very much ruining the image of police officers across the nation. And police officers don't have a lot of backers right now, and it's not really great that there are also the people that are backing them, they're now arresting without cause. It's not going to be good for them.
Cops are people, so I come at them the same way I do come with any person. They are neither a good or bad person until they've shown me either way. They're neither a good or bad cop until I've seen either way how they're applying the law. Yes. But let's get back to this. In no uncertain terms, going back to the story of the guy who was arrested for defending his home against an angry mob, even if this man had said something racist, even if he had done everything they accuse him of having done, let's say he really was this cartoon racist walking through the street with a Nazi flag harassing neighbors, even if all that were true and him dropping N-words, it would not make it okay for them to bring an angry mob to threaten him at his home and then for him to be arrested for arming himself when faced with that threat. If this guy had committed a crime, if he had harassed somebody or threatened or tried to intimidate someone, then call the police for that. You don't bring an angry mob to his door. That's assuming the most charitable interpretation of that what the BLM people have said was true, but you and I know they will call someone a Nazi just as an excuse to punch somebody. They have lied to us constantly, and I have, by default, I do not believe anything they say. So all I see here, it was most likely an innocent man, someone who being attacked, most likely just for his support of the president because of other people in his neighborhood, or at least these protests, which actually are not from his neighborhood, by the way. The guy who was organizing this and the people that went to it, predominantly not from the neighborhood. So someone sees a guy with a Trump flag and brings a mob to his door, most likely just being persecuted for his political beliefs. And the police anyone who gave them the order to arrest that person, they violated his human rights by basically arresting him for both his right to defend himself and his right to free speech.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, we've talked about that a lot, and it's just I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I know which state was it that said that if the local police violate your civil rights, you'd get a like a $50,000 like grievance payment or something like that. Well, I don't really like the idea of taxpayers having to bail out a taxpayer thing that is supposed to protect.
Oh no, it should come from the paycheck of the police officer.
Yeah. And police officers don't make a lot of money, but that's kind of beside the point. Just because you're maybe not making as much money as you should, that can be a separate conversation. That doesn't just grant you the right to violate people's rights. And
that sounds like a terrible excuse.
Yeah, if you, being underpaid is one thing, but violating my rights is a totally different thing. And I certainly think that if there is, this gets into qualified immunity, and police unions that we've talked about for a long time need to be eliminated. That's been a big what.
They can't complain about their pay. We have guys that are going overseas and sacrificing their lives for a pay that's so low they qualify for food stamps. All right?
Yes.
Military are underpaid, but I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that they shouldn't be complaining.
Yes, I know. Everybody who works for the government's underpaid except for the people in elected office somehow.
I am very thankful for every dollar I'm paid by the U.S. people for what I do. I'm not complaining. I'm just thinking that's ridiculous that they're complaining when the people will get paid a heck of a lot less than they do. And they are also risking their lives and getting shot at. So there's that.
Okay, so I noticed while I was looking for tweets for the next story, for some reason, RBG Revolution is trending on Twitter, and I don't know why. Where'd it go?
They're protesting and rioting. Not protesting. They're rioting over death. Seriously, man.
Are they rioting? Where are they rioting?
They're rioting over her death. Yes. More actually, if I stop joking about it, they actually are rioting over.
Wow, there's 37,000 tweets on RBG Revolution. Oh my god. I
want to tell you, man.
What is going on?
They are fucking insane. They're going out and destroying stuff and attacking people because they think Trump's he is going to nominate someone to replace her. And I saw one funny tweet. I don't know. It was funny to me because it was a lefty who was saying "fuck you" to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, getting angry at her for having died. Also, a bunch of people have been attacking. So shortly before Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, she actually officiated a wedding for a friend of hers. And they're actually harassing the people that she did the wedding for, saying that they had killed her by making her go to a public event.
I saw people saying, like, do not count Ruth as a COVID death.
Oh, no, they definitely are. They definitely count her as a COVID death. It was complications due to the cancer. It wasn't the cancer itself. So
oh my god, are you seeing this picture? I don't know what this
is. I am seeing it.
Oh my god, what is wrong with people? So this is like this is what the left does.
Fox?
This is what the left does. No, like they canonize like it's sainthood. Like Ruth wasn't just like a human being in a position of power. She was a saint. She's been sainted for having bad hot takes for 40 years.
I know you hate hearing this, but it definitely is a religion.
Oh my god.
Tell me otherwise. Change my mind.
Oh my god.
It's a religion.
People are fucking insane. Women belong in all places. I mean, sure they do, but I don't know. Okay. Okay, we're ready for our next story. I pulled up some supporting tweets that we'll blast through the reading. You can read the first paragraph. How about that?
Read, man.
I'll make you go first. How you feel?
Fine. I'll do that job. So Next up, we have the latest addition in the Everything is Racist list. Today, we add doctors and modern medicine. This claim has been made by the Washington Post back in July of this year when they published an article titled "Racism in Care Leads to Health Disparities. Doctors and other experts say they push for change." This claim has been repeated many times since then and probably beforehand, but has been validated by Democrats who claim to be doctors, saying, yes, that's absolutely true. More disparity in care is due to racism, no other reason.
So the Washington Post based their claims on an editorial by the New England Journal of Medicine. The editorial used the what's this saying? The editorial used the same critical race theory that they used to claim that everything else is racist, because everything is racist. Everything is racist. Basically, critical race theory postulates that the racism is present in all structures of the system. It's in the bones, starting from the point that you are to look for statistical outcomes and disparities as evidence of racism. Unless the statistic says that there is no racism, then the statistics are wrong.
No, you have to look until you find a stat that validates it.
Yes. The New England Journal of Medicine said that slavery has produced a legacy of racism, injustice, and brutality that runs from 1619 to present, and that legacy infects medicine as it does all social institutions, or so they claimed. Because as we know, slavery was unique to America, and it didn't start until 1619, like 200 years before America was founded, and it was only us, and it was only white people that ever had slaves, and it was only ever black people that were enslaved. It definitely was not that the first slaveholders, as the best, wasn't the first slaveholder black and like had white slaves? It was like
yes.
Okay.
So there was white slaves in America too. There's also the very large Muslim Arabic slave trade of what was mostly white and black, but white included. So I mean, is that racism now still present?
I think it's actually racist to bring up that Islam held slaves.
The Ottoman slave trade did exist and was far bigger than any slave trade in the U.S.
Yeah, but it's morally inconvenient, Dyer.
All right. So they claim that this legacy of racism and injustice is resulting in incomes, but don't actually make a causal argument. They say this is the state where these institutions are racist, and then we now are going to go find statistics that are going to back that up, an outcome that backs it up. They don't show the motive or the cause of how the structure made those disparate outcomes. They said that disparate outcomes automatically are caused by it without any showing causal information. That's important to note. That's how they structure all of their arguments. So the evidence they presented to justify their claim was that COVID-19 has a higher fatality rate for black people than other groups. See, their only evidence is a disparate outcome, not a causal factor. So the editorial also stated that black Americans die younger than white Americans, and they have higher rates of death from a string of diseases, including heart disease, stroke, cancer, and asthma and diabetes. I think you call these comorbidities. Now,
Legas.
I wonder if there's a possible connection between all of these other diseases and a higher rate of COVID deaths. I wonder. What do you think, Fox?
I agree with you.
I also noticed that a lot of these diseases are, kind of go hand in hand with being overweight. Overweight causes a lot of these diseases. Cancer, stroke, heart disease, diabetes, asthma are all things that can be related to you being overweight. Guess what? The black community tends to be more overweight as a group than other groups.
Now, there is this theory that there are these things called food deserts and that they only exist in black communities. I reject the idea that food deserts exist. I don't believe in them. I am in the food industry, and I know that they don't exist. But regardless, the theory is that black areas, predominantly black areas, do not have access to healthy foods. And that has contributed to higher weight gain among their population and contributes to these extra comorbidities. And that the reason why they have food deserts where they don't have access to fresh foods is because of racism. And so that's what's leading to all these other things. So these medical outcomes are due to the, if you trace them down the chain long enough, you get back to racism because I guess, Kroger's, rather than wanting to make money, which I realize that half the country has no idea where Kroger's is, or what Kroger's is, Walmart's food section, maybe Myers, they, instead of wanting to make money, they just don't want to serve black people. So they won't put stores in black communities, as we all know, except for we don't know that because that's not what they do. So to the extent that it might not be profitable to invest in a grocery store in a black community, that is the fault of the leaders.
Maybe because it might get burned down.
Yes, that is the fault of the leaders of those communities, which would be tend to be Democrats. Democrats tend to 9-to-1 black people in America will find themselves under a Democrat mayor. To the extent that it is unprofitable to invest in a grocery store in those areas, that is the fault of Democrat leadership by far. But again, I work for a company that's in the food industry, and it's just not true. Like, food deserts do not exist. It's not true.
Okay, if you were to invest in putting into a nice grocery store that sells better food, they would say that's gentrifying.
Absolutely it would. That is absolutely what would happen. Catman, I'm about to get into something that's going to make you regret having said that ironically. So Catman said, quote, "Doctors are racists," attributed to doctors. Unironically, that's what we're about to go through. This editorial, as Dyer said, did not make any proper citations as to why it was proposing that blacks were dying at a higher rate. It just assumed it and then said without evidence that it was because of racism. I guess presumably what they're alleging is that all doctors are white and that all doctors are also white supremacists that are like secretly using their position to kill black people that have COVID. I guess that's what you would want to take from that editorial.
Are there other groups that proportionally are more likely to be doctors than white people?
Asians.
Indians.
Oh, that's true too.
So are they also Asians though? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. Because everybody who's not black or white is Asian. Okay. So there was an actual study that was done. I know actual studies are a little beyond the Washington Post. And this was it was a little bit viral on Twitter last week. And what the study showed was that there is this gene that it indicates like receptor cells in your nasal pathways, which is one of the entry vectors for COVID. And so what it was showing is that this gene that controls that, TMPRSS2, that is higher, the expression for that gene is higher in black individuals for genetic reasons. Because as we know, there's a genetic component to your racial makeup. That doesn't mean that there's an intelligence quotient to that or anything about your personality, but obviously there's something in there in your genes that attribute you to that race. Your skin color is not a social construct.
Hey, just as an example, not that it shouldn't already be painfully obvious that your genes help determine the different characteristics that make different racial groups obviously come from somewhere. It comes from your genes. If there wasn't a change in the genes, there would be no differences. But even among different groups of the same skin color, like a different group of white people, if they are from a certain community that has been had less breeding from the outside, they develop their own distinct differences in genes, even though they're still more similar by skin color than other groups. They still have distinctive genetic differences that can be quantified and measured.
Let's make it real simple here. the same hardware, the same human hardware that you've got right now, it's been basically locked into this version of hardware for 200,000 years, since like the last time we had some kind of major evolution jump. And 200,000 years ago, we were like, didn't even have fire, and we're living in caves and like hunter-gatherers. And that same hardware that you have today, we can fly planes and make YouTube videos and like all kinds of crazy technical drive cars.
YouTube videos.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get too outrageous there. But the same hardware can support a brain that can learn how to hunter-gather stuff and also can learn how to fly a plane. Like, the racial differences between white and black people, the amount of difference between, if it even exists in this bell curve idea, the ability to learn anything exists as a potential for all humans. It's just undeniable. Like, there's no reason to like even go into that. But in your gene expression, like the actual like the mechanics of your cells, like, guess what? Inside your cells, there's no color.
All you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Slowpoke says, my old home had a Kroger's, like 2 before they left, but we got an Aldi's, and they have been pretty good selection of groceries, as well as like 3 Walmarts and 2 HEBs. Don't understand food deserts in cities. Like how? Yeah, like food deserts in cities.
Aldi's?
Yeah, so now what there might be is, and I guess like everybody who like becomes an adult like learns this, is like some people who like maybe didn't go with their parents to go shopping, or like didn't like learn how to shop for food, like cause this happened to me in college, where it was like, oh, like, you know, I guess I really don't know how to go shopping for like food, and I had to kind of like, you know, trial and error, like learn how to go to the grocery store, which sounds like a, you know, kind of a stupid thing to like admit, but like everybody has to like learn how to do something at some point. So what I think, yes, you do have to learn how to an adult. And so I think that might be more of the issue where these like quote unquote food deserts exist, is that there is food available. It's just people don't necessarily think that they don't know how to go shopping for themselves. And that's actually a big problem. That's a big problem contributing to the American diet. That's why we eat so much fast food, is a lot of people don't actually, and there's been a lot of studies on this, the Generation X did not do a good job of teaching their kids how to go grocery shopping, how to prepare food, and how to make meals and things like that. I know I was fortunate enough to get a decent amount of that stuff, and I can still kind of call my mom up and say like, hey, how do I do this with the oven? Like how long do you boil an egg for? How do you even boil water? But a lot of people don't have that, especially in the millennial generation. I think that's kind of where this is coming from. I don't believe in food deserts. The food is available. I just think that there's a lot of people who don't know how to shop for it. And if they do know how to shop for it, they don't know how to prepare it. Like, it's difficult to like prepare fresh foods. It's a lot easier to just pop that microwave meal in the microwave and like, you know, you got whatever the hell it is, and 2 minutes later. It's hard to actually prepare good food. But like going to McDonald's, like, you're going to get diabetes. You know, making your crap in, the microwave food, like, you're going to get diabetes from that. Having ice cream every night, you're going to have diabetes from that. If you learned how to prepare fresh fruits and vegetables and, meats and stuff like that, that is a skill set that I think that these people are lacking. It's not that they lack the access to the food, it's that they lack the knowledge of how to prepare it. Where was I going with? Oh, I was going off of Slowpoke's thing. I hate all these. So this tweet that was going viral was about this gene expression, right? Okay, so genetics. Obviously, genetics exists. Like, we know this. So this organization, let's hear, they say in their bio, JAMA is an international peer-reviewed general medical journal published weekly online and in print, member family of the JMA network family of journals. So this is a medical journal. It's an international medical journal publishing a work that has, again, it has been proposed since the start of COVID that black people were dying 2-to-1 over white white people and that was racist. So this medical journal is publishing a study that was looking in to see if that was true, and they showed in the study, yes, there is a gene, maybe not attributing to the death rate of like 2 to 1, maybe not proving that, but there is a gene that a lot of black people have that does code for something that is more accepting of COVID and will more readily get you infected. So like there is some link to that, and that's what this journal was finding. And so you would think that people would hold this journal up and say, this proves it. This proves that COVID is a racist virus. This shows that it's true. No, because the left is so dumb they can't handle themselves. So this is one of the responses to this tweet showing this article that there is a gene that black people have that makes them more susceptible to COVID. Here's some of the responses. So, Dr. MD Ramala N. Kanazi says MD in his bio. I don't know if he's actually a MD or not, but this is an example of biological racism. Thank you, MD. Suzanne Huang, MD, MPH, PhD. It's 2020, guys. This is unacceptable. Race is not a biological construct. So you have a doctor here saying that race and biology should not be included in medical work.
What about sickle cell anemia?
That's racist. Well, no. So actually, that's actually been brought up in this like tweet thread. This was a very long tweet thread of a lot of people and people with MDs in their names apparently, and some people brought that up. And what the response to that was is that sickle cell is actually a cause of social conditions that were placed on the black people, that because they're putting into these high stress situations, it causes them to develop sickle cells, which if you understand how sickle cell works, that's not true. It's just like there's something in the DNA code that causes the blood cells to be more likely to fold, and they don't fit in the blood cells in the vessels very well, and that causes problems. There is no way to acquire sickle cell is a purely genetic thing. There's no way to acquire it. You can't get it. You can only get it from your parents. It's genetic. But they are saying that sickle cell is actually a result of environmental racism. That just the racism acquired through the environment of black people has caused.
I highly doubt an actual doctor would say that. I'm sorry, I'm doubting their credentials.
Yes, I am too. Which is So again, like this is Twitter. So like, you know, these Twitter doctors are putting MD in their names, and I agree with Dyer that I do not believe that they are real doctors. In fact, I would be unsurprised if there is not a network of MD accounts that are just bot networks. I would be very surprised if a lot of these were not bots. But it goes to show that this is like this is what's like trending on Twitter, is that like quote unquote MDs are like going along with this idea that you can't take race into account when you're doing medicine. And then we also had, oh wait, I didn't read this one. Why are you spending the time and money on these studies instead of spending time and money on fighting racism?
Because if you don't know what the cause is, you can't treat it.
Well, the cause is racism, Dyer. We know that already. Race is not genetic.
It's nothing but genetic.
It says White Rosa Olsen. I want to look at her account. What has she got here? She's actually got like surviving residency, one page at a time.
She's a student. She's not an MD. She's a student.
She's got MD in her name.
Yeah, but she's going through residency. She's still a student.
Can I just put MD in my name? I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
There's I'm gonna do this live. Edit profile. Fox Trevize MD. Hey, look, I'm a doctor now.
That's impressive and all, but I too am a doctor. So,
doctor. Let's do PhD MD.
I'm just gonna copy paste another person who's claiming to be MD's entire description.
Guys, look, I'm a doctor now. You guys just saw it live where Fox Trevize is now a doctor.
Congratulations.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about this. Did you posted a picture in here? Did you have something else you wanted to talk about? What is this? What are you doing? Oh, I see it. Oh, I'm gonna open that up. How do I open up that image in a new? You are a mad lad. Hold on a second. All right, fill in the gap. Fill in the dead air here. I'll open that up in a new tab.
All right.
Can you send that to me on Skype so I can actually open it?
Yeah, I did. So the thing is that there is a genetic component, and that different groups can be more susceptible to diseases or have to have a specialized diet. Like, so if you just could throw out the entire idea of genetic medicine, you're taking out the possibility you could cure some diseases for some groups because you're just so scared of accepting that there are genetic differences. That you can't be a good doctor to do that. I wouldn't want to be treated by a doctor that wasn't willing to look at what genetic diseases and how they might be affecting me. In fact, I was kind of turned off by a military doctor who asked me what my preferred gender was. I'm like, I don't want to be treated by this person.
Yeah, I would agree because I mean, your preferred gender is irrelevant to like your actual gender, and
I can't find the original. I'm so sorry.
All right, I'll just throw this up. Dyer threw up this very awesome example of somebody wearing a mask correctly. Am I to understand that his mouth and lips are not covered by this as well? That's like he can like speak allegedly.
Yes, his bottom lip is currently the bottom of the mask.
Can you tell what what is he dressed in? Like what military is this?
So it looks like it might be an African, South African military.
What kind of gun is that? Is that a pistol grenade launcher?
No. It's a flare launcher. It also can be used as a grenade launcher.
That is a hell of a flare launcher. Jesus Christ.
It is a signaling device that can also be used to fire a grenade. And he has a backpack water camel pack on his front. He has a gas mask upside down on his face. And
dude, this guy's ready to go.
Yeah.
Look at that. He's got 3 chevrons on him. I mean, he must be like pretty high rank. He must know what he's doing. Damn.
The guy next to him is wearing it correctly, it looks like.
The guy next to him is probably like, wait, am I wearing it wrong? It looks kind of cool. You got this like big like tube on the top of your head. I don't know. It's kind of cool. I don't understand how like the third world like still exists. Like just from like pure like inefficiency, like how have they managed to survive? I don't understand.
I mean, a lot of them did starve and die because of mismanagement.
That is true. Did we have anything else in this topic?
No, it's just like, okay, so if the racism is causing all these diseases like diabetes, are white people making black people fat?
No.
All right. What action, like, so that even if you follow this, it's actually not a doctor being racist. You're saying it's their lifestyle is caused by racism, right? So I don't even understand how this supports doctors or medicine being racist at all.
Everything's racist. I don't know. It's really. We're really digging up wood chips at the bottom of the barrel right now, like trying to overanalyze every time a new thing is racist, because it's really just the same thing that we have response every time.
Story. It's all just critical race theory.
Yeah.
And how it starts off being racist, and then you try to justify that claim.
Yeah. So it's just like it's hard to say like new things about it. Like there's nothing. Which is like
why Trump banned any government funding of critical race theory.
It's well trodden territory. Like just like every time there's a new instance where like something new is racist, just like see previous shows. Alrighty. Well, that was a blast. Totally ruthless show.
Yeah, I think all our shows are gonna be ruthless moving forward.
Yes. Also, along with RBG Revolution is hashtag fill the seat is also trending, and I tend to agree with that.
Hell yeah.
Oh, did you see this one?
I did.
Yeah,
It's hilarious.
This is a meme. I was raped by whoever Trump nominates to replace Justice Ginsburg. I never told anyone because nobody paid me to say it until now.
I will bet you right now, I will bet you $50 that whoever is picked will be accused at least one time
It has
by
to be
major
a girl.
Democrat politician.
He has to pick a minority girl.
Doesn't
because-
matter. It's still going to say rape.
I know, but that would be the only, like, the best defense would be to pick a minority woman, and I hate that it has to be
and
like
a rape
that.
victim.
Yes.
A black female rape victim. Justice.
Yes. Well, we know that the Democrats would just attack her for having called the police on a rapist. Can you
Yeah.
I guess now that we're after the show, just like ranting. I just I can't get over that the Democrats and like Kamala Harris like saying specifically that she was like proud of Jacob Blake, like that he was like inspirational. Like, can you imagine, like, Jacob Blake's the guy from Kenosha, Wisconsin that was being arrested while he got shot by cops while he was being arrested for raping a girl that he had been serially raping for several years. Can you imagine, like, so Kamala Harris met with him like 2 weeks ago.
Inspiring.
Yeah, and said that he inspired her. Like, can you imagine, like, being the girl or being the girl's brother or her father or her family or being, like, her, like, small child? Her small child was there at the apartment when Jacob Blake was raping her. Can you imagine being part of this girl's friends and family? And, like, she's still anonymous. We still don't know who she is. And, like, as much as I'd love to hear her speak out about it, like, for her sake, like, they will kill her. Somebody from Antifa and BLM will try, they will put out a gang hit on her. They will try to kill her. So I guess she has to stay anonymous. But can you just imagine, like, think right now, like, if you had, like, a sister and somebody raped her and had been raping her for years, and then now all of a sudden that guy is a candidate for the president of the United States is saying that he's a hero and inspiration to her, and this guy raped your sister. Like, imagine that. Or like your daughter or a close friend. Like, I just cannot get my head around how disgusting that is. And Kamala Harris doesn't like breathing. I mean, it's just off the charts, like off the charts outrageous. And nobody in the media has called that out. Like, nobody in the media was like, hey, like, that was, there's like a person here that was being raped. Like, maybe we should get like an anonymous interview with her, or like, her friends and family, or
They never got a statement from her.
Yeah, they never did.
They don't care. It would hurt their narrative. One thing I was telling was when BLM recently they were caught on video saying, "Who we protect? Black criminals."
I know. Do you have a copy of that video? I keep hearing about that video. I have not actually seen that video.
I watched it, but I didn't think to grab a copy.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, maybe we'll go over that at some point next week. But yeah, it's the pretense is totally gone now, and I've been saying that for a long time. I've actually been on Twitter for the last several months, been responding to people, with hashtag Black Crimes Matter. Because I'm a troll, but it really is like they might as well be saying Black Crimes Matter, because like that's what they're supporting. Like there is not a single black rapist, black murderer that they will not support. Certainly,
They even write about a black suicide.
Yeah, yes, even a black guy committing suicide. And then if you're white and you want to get in on that train, you just have to go hunt down a Trump supporter. Do not do that.
Yep.
That is not a recommendation. But like they will, the most vile, terrible people are like the ones that they hold at the highest order. And these are the same people who put out a meme that we saw of Ruth Bader Ginsburg as a saint. So I kind of feel vindicated in my previous statements about her. That she maybe wasn't the most honorable person, that maybe she was very dishonorable and derelict in her duty. The same people that are saying that a rapist, somebody who serially raped someone, that he's an inspiration to us all. and that he needs to keep fighting. Kamala said he needs to keep fighting it. Like, fighting what? Fighting to keep raping? Those same people that say rapists are heroes are also saying that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's a saint. I disagree.
The position of BLM and a large portion of the, I guess, Democrats that have been funding them is that if you call the police on a black person who's committing a crime, doesn't matter what the crime is, they can be raping you, trying to kill you, rob your store, that you're the bad guy for calling the police because you're putting that criminal's life in danger. That happened recently when a store manager called the police on a black person who had just shoplifted, and they didn't actually even want the person arrested. They didn't press charges. All they wanted was the stuff back, and the guy got to walk free. But they then protested in front of that store before calling the police.
A update from the riots tonight. It's just this tweet has to win an award. BLM protesters went into private property tonight and proceeded to assault a gay Mexican veteran and his boyfriend. Jesus Christ, 2020, stop. It's like all the fucking things.
Were they also Jewish?
Probably.
You gotta finish it.
Yeah, fucking hell. And their friends. Jesus Christ. I don't know, guys.
Have a fun revolution, I guess.
Like I said, you guys got to talk to your local police and your sheriff's department and get an awareness of what, based off what we've seen nationally, what is it that their response would be if something happens in your town? Because you might think you're in a small nobody town that this stuff's not going to happen in. People in Kenosha thought they were in a small nobody town a month ago, and look at them now. This could actually happen anywhere, especially if you're within like a 2-hour radius of one of these major cities, which covers a lot of the country. And if the answer is yes, I'm going to start going to. I was kind of busy this month, and the timing did not work out. I'm going to actually start going to my my city council meetings and just kind of keeping an eye on what they're doing and what they're talking about. I would recommend, like I said, either get an awareness of what your local police department and your sheriff kind of how they think that they would react if something like this happened in your town. If the answer is yes, keep watch of them, like keep informed as to like what the day-to-day goings on with them. And if the answer is no, definitely go to your city council and start raising hell. That's what we got to do, because this the story that we covered earlier of the police will come arrest you for no reason just because you exist and you're on your property and the mob demanded it. That is not stopping. We've only seen more and more of that. It kind of started with the McCloskeys in St. Louis, and it just escalated from there. And the McCloskeys are stupid rich. The McCloskeys are stupid rich, and they're lawyers. So, like, they can handle it themselves. Like, and I'm glad that it happened to some lawyers who have a lot of money, because they can make a case that sets precedent. But this other guy that we were talking about, he's a nobody. He can't afford a legal defense. You guys probably can't afford a legal defense. I know Dyer's super rich, so you can probably afford one.
What?
But we know, I'm just kidding. We know, we've seen with Kyle Rittenhouse, if you have the wrong politics and you're attacked, you will not be able to raise money. They will take down your GoFundMe. They will will cancel your accounts. They will cancel the accounts of anybody who's trying to donate to you. You will not be able to get money. They will shut down your interactions with the economy, and you will just be arrested, and you won't be able to do anything about it. We have to start being proactive. Obviously vote, but I think an easy way to be more involved is just the bare minimum of go to your city's website, see what time their city council meetings are, if they're allowed to have them in person, if they're broadcasting them somewhere. Go watch them. I mean, you're talking about a 1-hour commitment, maybe 2 times a month. Like my city only has two city council meetings per month. It's not a large. You guys sit here and listen to our stupid show for 3 hours. Like, you can go to your city council meeting once a month. I would strongly recommend that you guys start doing this, because I don't. Certainly, Trump getting reelected and us maybe keeping the Congress that we have, or making some more gains into it, that's going to be a long way towards keeping the federal government off you. But all of these things, like, it doesn't matter who's in office. When this guy got arrested at his own home because the mob demanded it, that's his local government. Your local government is what is going to be oppressing you first. The federal government's important, but the people that will come to your house and take you to jail for existing, that's going to be your local government. You have to start being more aware of what they're doing. I know I've been derelict in that duty for a long time. I'm trying to reverse that by going and at least being aware of what they're talking about. Eventually, maybe I'll jump into the conversation if I don't like what I'm seeing. But you guys got to start doing that in your local areas. Like I said, Kenosha did not think that was going to happen to them, and then it did. You guys might not think it's going to happen in your town. Maybe it won't. Statistically, it won't. Statistically, it's never going to be you, but it could
one
be.
day it might.
It could be. Statistically, it'll never be you. But if it is you, there's nothing you can do about it. You're just screwed. You're just toast. So start trying to take an active part in making sure that your city is not a part of those statistics.
Yep. Anyways, we'll see. Next time we'll be seeing you guys will be our Wednesday show, right? For some more games. It's been fun.
Fucking Fall Guys.
Not Fall Guys. Because my wife's not okay with that.
Oh! Ruth Bader Ginsburg's on our YouTube account. Ruth Bader Ginsburg says, "Hey, hold my seat, please." The preparation was done long ago.
Oh,
when the law.
by the way, I want to point out something. We never actually talked about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's own opinion about whether or not someone should put
If only somebody had written that down.
It was written down.
Oh.
She wrote it down.
What was her opinion on late term nominations to the Senate or to the Supreme Court?
So she said that she was for it because it is the president's duties to do it. And that was her opinion during the Obama administration doing it. And she also had an opinion about the Senate, the Supreme Court with more justices. She told the Democrats she was opposed to it. So if they're going to go by her will, what she wants, then Trump should appoint someone to replace her, and they shouldn't ever stack the court.
There's another thing too with while we're rehashing the stories we already went through with the Middle East peace deal. So after Trump announced the Middle East peace deal, the Babylon Bee put out a joke article that said,
I remember.
Yeah, so it was they made a joke screenshot of a CNN broadcast where the Chiron said, Trump forgoes masks at Middle East peace deal and like forgoes social distancing. And it was a joke article about how it was completely irrelevant that Trump had peace in the Middle East. And the important thing is that they were flaunting social distancing rules. And then actual CNN, a few hours later, put out an article almost the exact same thing, but unironically complaining that they had not done social distancing at the peace event.
I know. It's hilarious.
I wish you'd have brought that up. It's a little late now, but look it up. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. So. All right. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. That was a fun show.
Yep. Thank you guys for being with us. Have a good weekend. Fox Trevize out.
Oops.
Direwolf also out.
I already said that.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg says LMAO. I agree.